All right. Testing. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Royal News Network Saturday morning live stream. I hope you guys are all having a super fantastic and amazing Saturday. It has been a wild week, you could say, in many ways. I feel like we are getting endless teases by Meghan Markle for her upcoming brand, yet she has not released it yet, as far as I'm aware. Thought for sure she was going to release it on Friday, thinking maybe it's Monday. We still don't know, but seemed like just a lot of buildup and then not a lot, which Harry and Meghan have done, I feel like, quite a bit. We also have, of course, the chaos with the collapse, or I would say implosion of Sentebale, Prince Harry's charity, and all the kind of chaos surrounding that, because we're getting kind of conflicting stories, I feel like. It seems like there was something filed with the Charity Commission, and then that was pulled back because the board resigned. So I don't know if there is any investigation actually going on. People seem to be really keen on that being sort of like the nail in Harry's coffin. We've had, quote unquote, a lot of those, and I just don't think that one is going to be there. I think there's a lot more to this than people are kind of wanting to believe. And we also have King Charles, of course, back briefly in the hospital due to the side effects of his treatment. We don't know if he's getting chemotherapy, immunotherapy, what have you. And then we have Princess Madeline launching a skincare line. It's not going to be available until September, but she was at an official event in Germany for it. So I thought that was pretty awesome. And so, yeah, very exciting. We also have Miss Pippa. She is in the studio audience today on a nice Ugg blanket, enjoying the sunshine, the inane conversations that I am having that she doesn't understand. And she's going, why does mom talk to herself? Anyways, so Miss Pippa is my dog, if you are not aware. But guys, welcome to this latest edition of the Saturday morning live stream. So we will begin. We have Azima here. Hi, everyone. I made it to a live again. And we do have Lori here as well, and Seabass from Michigan. And Azima asked, any engagements for Easter for Catherine and William? Most likely they will go to the Easter service. They did not go last year, but I imagine they will go this year. Beyond that, I'm not sure. We don't have any updates. It seems like really because of Catherine's, still recovery and everything, events aren't announced until like kind of right before. Let's see. She came out for, when was her last official event? Now I think it was maybe, let's see. I feel like she went afterwards though, because she came out for the Commonwealth Day. Oh, it was St. Patrick's Day. So it was last Monday, last time we saw her. So it's been about, it'll be 2 weeks on Monday since we have seen her. So hopefully she is doing okay, but the kids might have been out or something. So we do have that. And Esma says, is King Charles okay? The short answer is yes, but the real answer is we don't know. I still find it concerning. He is going to be consistently undergoing treatment. Yes, I know some cancers are sort of like that, but I think it is a bit of a concern, and he hopefully is doing well. Sorry, I was just checking, make sure my mic is on because I can press it to mute it, and sometimes my fingers get close and I don't realize it. So yeah, he is doing okay, but yeah, definitely concerning that he went ahead, that he is still sort of struggling with the treatments. We do also have Annika here as well, became a YouTube member. Why, thank you so much, Annika. I hope you really enjoy the great opportunity to have fun and chat with everyone. And so it's just a great little community there. Guys, we have Creative Chaosify. Hello, everyone. Laura Miller says, do you think Gwyneth Paltrow is really supporting Meghan? The answer is no. The answer is no. I do not believe that. So it seems to me, I have looked, and Gwyneth is not following Meghan, and Meghan is not following Gwyneth. So sort of what I could see happening here is that Gwyneth, hey, she maybe played into the Meghan Markle stuff a bit just for the heck of it. Of course, Meghan Markle's fan base is vitriolic. So she was like, okay, this has gotten out of control. All right, Meghan, you are my neighbor. Come over here, honey, with a pie, which is exactly what Meghan did. We will look cutesy for 5 seconds and then you leave. That is what I personally believe happened, because here's the thing, guys. Gwyneth sort of joked that she had met Meghan once, she seemed lovely, but maybe she joked that maybe she would have to bring a pie to them if she could get past their security, which I think was the true burn. That was the true burn. And kind of the laugh, ha, because Gwyneth is worth more, her house is worth more, and yet somehow Harry and Meghan need this absurd security apparatus, which is basically there just to feed their egos. Anyways, so, because I saw the Architecture Digest piece on Gwyneth, and her bathroom actually looks like something I had envisioned for like a ridiculous, I can't remember what I was thinking for it about, but it was more like a spa rather than a bathroom. And it's so funny, guys, though, because I had like the same vision for a bathroom, which is really, really weird. It's just super weird. And so, like, that instead of like a tub, you have like almost a built-in jacuzzi in the ground, like as if you were in a pool or a spa. That was like my vision, and that's what Gwyneth has. I'm like, Gwyneth, you and I, man, we're simpatico. Anyways, so all that to say is that in the hierarchy, I'm going to say, of Hollywood, that Meghan came to Gwyneth's house, that Meghan appeared on Gwyneth's thing, makes me think that Meghan bent the knee. That Gwyneth was like, hey, let's just get this over with and get the naysayers, get the chatter to stop in some ways. And so that's exactly what she did. I don't think she was really trolling Meghan initially. I think she was more having maybe just a smidge of fun, but it's something she does every day. It wasn't that much different than her other boyfriend breakfast videos. So I don't think Gwyneth was trolling Meghan, but I don't also think she was supporting Meghan. I think she was just like, let's sort of kill this chatter, and so we can go on with our lives. That's, I think, was the plan with this, and that's sort of exactly what happened. I mean, people are still going to speculate, but yeah. Creative Chaosify says, did you see Dr. C's newest interview with the Financial Times? I have not. So there is just so much chatter regarding the collapse here. So I'm curious what she'll have to say. I'll have to read it later and see if there's anything else that might be sort of interest. It's not one of the top stories. Let's see. So she's coming out swinging too. Of course you would. So the thing is, guys, what I've noticed in regards to this whole sort of collapse thing is that it seems to go sort of one way, which is that Dr. C can speak out, but heaven forbid anybody from the board of the charity speaks out. So, guys, if you are really interested in getting the truth, you do have to hear both sides of the equation. That's just the fact of the matter. And what I see too, that I'll just say, is that the anti-Harry bias is so immense that people just can't see that maybe this was just a failure or a collapse of leadership and agreement between the board and the chair. And they just, for the future of the organization, they just had to dissolve that. And then she could do her own thing because she seemed to want to have the charity. And so essentially that's what she's gotten. So that's sort of what happens. Just as a clarification, because I know I saw some people on X talking about, oh no, the boards don't, it's cowardly or something, or childish for boards to resign. Boards resign in mass. It's actually fairly common. If you actually Google it, it comes up quite a few times, especially regarding nonprofits. So this is not out of the realm of possibility. This is not it's not an unusual occurrence, because I think people are thinking, oh, this only happens here. No, this happens in other places too. When it comes to charities as well, just to let you guys know, boards, of course, are always filled with, generally, this is across companies and across charities, people who are friendly to either the chairperson or the founders, something like that. They're generally not antagonists. That's sort of how this works. So she has now filled the board with people who are loyal to her. Guys, this is just bare bones basic business. This is just how businesses operate. And then the other thing is, I know there's a lot of chatter about USAID. The way USAID works, or at least it did, is that they had a big pool of money that was considered a grant. And so you as an organization can apply for a grant from USAID. So does that have anything to do with Harry? At least in the instance of Sentebale, no. It has nothing to do with Harry. They were a charity that applied for a grant that they received, like thousands of other organizations. So that's not unusual at all as well. So I'll have to read her piece to kind of try to suss out where we are residing here, because I feel like we're getting conflicting stories, and I am kind of knowing where I like to sit on things, but I know we're still in the early stages of trying to figure out exactly what happened. I was hoping it came up in Apple News, but it didn't. Anyways, so big things there. So, Asma says, any news on updates from the Heritage Foundation? It seems like they're going to continue their court case. Where it goes, I don't know. I don't know. I just wish for just to get over all the ridiculous nonsense. I wish the Trump administration would just release it and we can all just be done and move on with our lives. That's my only thought. Azima says, where is As Ever on the top 20 on Netflix? So it's not As Ever. It's With Love, Meghan. It wouldn't be there. And like, again, this thing most likely cratered after the first week. Like, some people maybe went back and watched it, but honestly, people watched it because of the interest in like watching the failure. Is it as bad as people were saying? That was the interest in watching the show. That is past. People moved on. So that we got. Carol says, hello, Brittany, Miss Pippa, and chat from Southwest Florida. Hello. Azima says, as a UK taxpayer, just end Harry's attempts to make us pay for his security already. Revic decided already the case is costing more every day. So that, again, is a legal issue. Harry has the right to challenge it. That's just the thing. He has the right to challenge it. I think it's ludicrous. I think it's ridiculous. But nothing behooves him from doing that. It is his, in a democratic system, it is his legal right to challenge things in court. Now, is he wasting his money? Of course he probably is, but that's neither here nor there. He still has the right to do it. And so we have Diane. Hello, Brittany and RNN fam. I made it to a live on time. May have to pop off and on during, but excited to be here. I'm so glad. Asma says, did anyone see Princess Beatrice's post about her daughter? Yes, we did. It was available last week, and we shared that. What is it? That, about what was going on. We share it on the Crown Report as well. So I'll probably be kind of posting that on the Crown Report social media here pretty soon. Diane says, it's been a while chatting. It has. Yeah, Creative Chaosify says, Harry's got bigger problems looming on the horizon. His dad fighting for his life. His kids are merged on Instagram, and his financial shenanigans are about to be exposed. And so we also have Joan G says, it's finally happening. Karma is real. So here's the thing. I don't actually think anything is going to happen with Sentebale Day or Sentebale. I don't think this is. There have been so many like gotcha moments people have thought about Harry and Meghan, and they all turn out to be busts. I think this is going to be the same. I'll have to actually read what she's alleging in the article, but we have no evidence of impropriety at this point. There's nothing there, guys. And given that he's merely the founder and not part of the board and the chair, he has much less influence on where the money goes on a day-to-day basis, let alone overall with the charity. Yes, he can advise. Yes, I'm sure he sort of tries to direct, but he is also at the mercy of the board and the chair. They're the ones who sign the checks. So he has limited capacity here. This whole idea that there's some sort of massive black hole of money in Sentebale is ridiculous, I think. And when it comes to the polo thing, what happens is they probably spend a little bit of money, but the idea is that they have people who like the guys who play in it actually pay like $75,000 to play in this polo match to raise money. That was what was described recently in the Daily Mail. And so that was how they made their money, was through these polo matches. Shifting is a good idea. So I just don't think people think this is going to be a big thing. I'm going to say pump your brakes. I don't think there's anything there, to be quite honest. We will see, but what I do think is the karma here. And Creative Chaosophy says karma works in mysterious ways, but she gets there in the end. I don't think it's actually, guys, the karma is not that the allegations are necessarily true. I think what the karma is here is that Harry now knows what it feels like to be falsely accused. Because let's say these accusations are false. We have no idea. We have no idea. It's a he said, she said. We probably will never know for sure. But if Harry is sitting there going, I know I didn't do anything wrong here, and I'm being falsely accused, maybe it clicks something in his brain to go, oh, maybe that's what my family felt like. That's what I think is interesting. To me, that's a bit more of an interesting angle than, oh, he's gonna get. I really don't think he is. But I think what the true, let's say, issue is here is that he's discovered now what it feels like to be on the receiving end of somebody telling him something he knows is not true. And that's exactly what he did to his family. So in that respect, he is feeling that. At least I hope he is. I hope he's waking up a little bit to what it means to have somebody not care about the reality of the situation and just throw out accusations. Now, again, the accusations could be 100% true, but I think it's almost more interesting if they're not. So, because that would be more revealing. But we have no evidence either way at this point, just a mudslinging contest at this point. And really, to be quite honest, I know the initial statement people said that Harry was attacking her character. If you actually look at the words, that they're not really what you have to do if you are on the chair of the board or if you're a founder or something and you have to resign. You have to tell the media. That's generally, especially with an organization like this, given who Harry is, he would have to say not only why he resigned, but he would have to say a little bit about what it meant and where the company is going. So the idea that he doesn't say anything is sort of ludicrous. He had to say something. They had to say something. This was an organization with not a big footprint, I would argue, but a notoriety level. And so that's why you have to say something. So this idea that they were just supposed to keep quiet is, again, not how businesses actually operate. And I say business because charities in certain ways are businesses. Yes, they aren't getting things for profit, but they operate as a business in terms of the interactions between the board and the chair would be like very similar to business, except for instead of looking at how much revenue is coming into the company and what that means for their stock options, they're going, okay, how much can we raise to help others? That's sort of what a board is there for. Anyways, for those of you who don't know, because I think most people know, but I feel like so much misinformation out there right now about how companies actually operate. So just trying to help there. Ritz says, good morning, RNN, people of the land. Yes, Cindy says, good morning, all. And then we have Selena, thank you so much for the super chat here. Meghan bent the knee. Yes, she did. She bent the knee. Gwen is still queen, guys. Gwen is 100% still queen. Meghan may be a little duchess in her own mind, but Gwyneth is queen of the lifestyle space, and Meghan bent the knee. That was 100% what happened. And Gwyneth, again, guys, I did a whole video on this. And it was funny because when I first posted the video on Harry and the charities, some people were like, yeah, you were kind of right about the Gwyneth Meghan thing. And when it comes to as ever, Gwyneth has literally nothing to be worried about. Literally nothing. There's nothing to as ever. Gwyneth has absolutely no reason to be concerned at all about as ever. She's laughing at it. She's laughing at it. It's pretty pathetic. Like from a business perspective, Meghan is basing her entire brand premise on she wants to be a billionaire off the spread. Spread, not even jam, spread. And flour sprinkles. That ain't gonna happen. I'm sorry. So Goop is ridiculous, but there's a place for skincare. There's a place for ridiculous fashion. There's a place for wellness, like the things that Goop does. Meghan, I still don't even know what the lifestyle brand is supposed to be about. And then you have on top of it the most pedestrian products possible that are being offered on her website. And Gwyneth is like, yeah, no, she's gonna flail. She's like, and Gwyneth is like, well, Meghan, let's just make your stands go away because they're annoying me and my brilliance, which, Gwyneth has been actually quite brilliant in her efforts. And so she's like, let's just let bygones be bygones and move on with our lives. That's what I feel like from Gwyneth Paltrow, but that's just me. That's just me. Okay, so we do have Through the Looking Glass channel with Alice. Good morning. Thanks for the reminder yesterday about how Harry had problems in July 2019 with Mountbatten Windsor X that had to be dissolved after Sussex Royal squash. So yeah, I mean, some of that we'll have to see. I'll have to look at myself, but some of it just seems to be challenges within the organization, and not everything is connected to everything. I think people want to make this through line, which I don't know if there is. Creative Chaosify said this is from Asma. Are you caring about anyone else or Meghan? That's new. When did he start? Merching the kids is the only option they have now. I mean, I think he does, but it's just, I think, and this is just as having read a lot of history and seeing the nuances of people and just understanding that we are all nuanced, we are all contradictory in our own ways and stuff, I would always stress that, guys, two things can always be true at once. Ivan the Great could have been, sorry, Ivan the Terrible could have been terrible, and he could also have made some good decisions. Peter the Great was great, but he also made some horrifically awful decisions. You can have good leaders who are bad and bad leaders who are good. You can have, it's this thing where we are all so layered that I think to kind of stamp on one thing is a little premature sometimes. And we also have, I think, the Harry situation where we do have a level of manipulation with him, in my opinion. And so you have kind of the contradictory aspects of him before and after Meghan. And so there, I think there are different aspects of his personality that could be there and not there. So it's a challenge. And if you're living and you're in a marriage where there's kids and stuff, like the idea that you can dictate what another spouse does is sort of a joke. And she's the breadwinner, and she can tell to him, well, you aren't making any money, so I get to make the decisions about the kids and the family. She rules the roost. That, I mean, that was even in People magazine. That's a friendly publication to them, said that she rules the roost. So he is there, he makes decisions, but at the same time, he is also very, very much. I think she puffs him up over security stuff, and it's like, oh, you're my savior, Harry. But the rest of the time in their life, she's the one who calls the shots. And so, like, I don't think he has any right to say anything about the kids on Instagram. I don't think he's, maybe they've come to an agreement where she doesn't show their faces, but like, we're going to get there at some point. Let's be honest. So yeah, he has no say in anything, in my opinion. Diane says, after that, the thing with GP had reached my limit of Meghan. Took a break because I'm not interested. I am interested in how Sentebale will turn out, though. I think it's going to collapse. I think that's 100% what's going to happen. It will not survive. For two reasons. Number one is it's lost two of its biggest patrons. I don't think Dr. Sophie was expecting that. I think she knew the board had resigned. I don't think she realized that Harry and the other prince would resign in protest with the board. I think that was a surprise to her, because that really does kill any fundraising ability that she has. And according to some of the reports, she had tried different avenues of fundraising and had failed for the most part. So she lost her two biggest draws to any event. The only way you can hold an event at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Miami is if you have a big draw, and that draw was Harry. But Harry took people to, and wasted money, I would argue, because this is what we report as well, wasted money taking people to Luthu and Sentebale, and they didn't donate. So you have a clear indicator of a organization, I think, that people who have money to spare looked at and had questions about and decide not to donate. That is like a huge warning flag. That's not just Harry, that's how the organization is being run. Those are issues behind the scenes. So if you think about it, when it comes to polo, like, people raise money, but they also get to play with Prince Harry. So if they pay in, and most polo players have a lot of money, pay $75,000 to play as part of a charity, it kind of puffs them up and stuff like that. And so that's sort of an easy route to raise money from. And it doesn't require a lot of looking at the actual charity. Now, do I think it's maybe financial impropriety? Maybe not. Maybe it's just ineffectiveness. Maybe people looked at it and goes, this organization's really not doing much. Or I see 12 other organizations doing it better who are also on my donation list, and I don't believe in throwing good money after bad. That could be a choice that certain big potential donors made as well. Because when it comes to, like, their efforts, if they failed, it's not just on Harry. It's not just on her, really. Although, that she was leading the charge, allegedly, I think at least a little bit more of the burden falls on her. It's clearly that the charity itself is not working. If you're trying a different fundraising model and you're not getting any money, and you only got your money through one way, then the charity itself has a problem. Because people who have money to burn looked at it and went, it's not doing that much, or it could be doing better, or this seems minimal. So I think it's an overall issue with the charity. And given how the board resigned and all this chaos and everything, and the sort of the mudslinging, just me as a personal donor, I would not donate just because I want to know that the person I'm donating to is leading this company not based on sort of reactionary stuff, but actually is leading it with a clear vision in mind. And I don't see that. I just see sort of chaos and unnecessary chaos. This could have been done more simply without the mud throwing. And at the end of the day, it's going to make, I think, anybody with money think twice. That's just is going to be the case. So, DS, who's been a member for 12 months. I've been a member for a year. It's been so fun. I'm so glad. Lady Aviator said, so true about hypocrisy and leadership. As the going says, a broken clock is right twice a day. You make excellent points and articulate it well. Why, thank you. Yeah, it's been one of those things where I feel like sort of weird on X a bit recently because people are going so hardcore, but really, guys, people are so nuanced. Like, I can think of an example, but I feel like I have to get demonetized if I said this person's name, but this person killed a lot of people, but also liked dogs, and then also killed his dog first and then himself. So it's like people are weird. That's the whole thing. We are so clock is right twice a day. People can be right and wrong at the same time, and yet still good and bad and so many different things. It is that whole level of this humanity that it makes us human, but it also makes us failable. So we all can fail in multiple different ways, and we can all succeed in multiple different ways. And I just don't think a one size fits all is rare, that it actually really sort of kind of works out. Because I feel like when it comes to Meghan, she's a weird combination actually of narcissism. She is, I think, has immense control issues. And then you top out it all and that she's exceedingly insecure. And yes, narcissism and insecurity kind of go together, but the control adds a different level. So she's so controlled that she wants everything perfect, but she's so insecure that she has to do it even harder. So she has to fake it even more. And then you have this whole level of weirdness. So yeah, I think bad leaders can be good and good leaders can be bad. And that's a way to look at the situation, or because I just don't always feel right trying to go after and destroy somebody without solid stuff. But I do have to read the Financial Times piece. Skylar McReady, thank you so much for the super chat. A little down payment so Miss Pippa can have her own Ana Lucia diamond tag. Why, thank you. She's looking up from her little nest in the blankets going, why, thank you. I'm a princess, and I do have a fake diamond on my collar, which she does, by the way. But she's thinking, I need a real one because I'm a real diamond princess puppy. All right. We have James Rick Lennox. Thank you so much for becoming a YouTube member. I really do appreciate it and look forward to sharing so many things in the future here. Carol says, I read on the X that the tensions developed between Harry and Dr. Sophie in April 2004 during that polo tournament and wanting to defend Meghan. This reported by Richard Eden in the Financial Times. So Richard Eden has a lot, but sometimes he can be hit and miss. But like, I mean, that could be true, but I really don't think, like, it could have been like a one-off tension bit. But I don't think Meghan had that much to do with Sentebale. I really just don't think she does. And so my instincts has been, it's like, I don't think she cares. And like, she's so focused on her own stuff that I don't think she'd be caring that much about Harry's stuff, to be quite honest. That's sort of what makes more sense to me. But we shall see. We shall see. So Asma says, why don't the PRF do as many state visits as the other royals? That's a wonderful question. Love to know that too, because we have so many coming up. So you actually see my calendar back here. So we have part of it's my trip, but some of it's state visits galore, like so many state visits and events. And the Brits just don't do stuff. And I just like, why? But I think it's, security. If they go somewhere, it's a huge deal compared to some of the other royal families. And so I think that's what drives a lot of it. Faith Goodman said, hello from sunny Great Britain. Please keep Harry and Meghan away from Great Britain. We do not want them back. Spare was written with venom and spite, so it was planned rather than a comment taken out of context or edited. Oh, 100%. 100%. It was vindictive and spiteful, and it was something I hope for Harry's sanity he lives to regret. Faith Goodman says, asthma completely. Okay, let's see. Laner says, good morning from Northern California. Deborah says, hello, everyone. Christina says, good morning from everyone from Westminster. Maryland, hope everyone is doing well. Elizabeth Ween says, good morning from Manitoba, Canada, everyone. What a busy time for everyone. Let's discuss Meghan bombing, Harry losing his charity, and poor King may not be doing well. Yeah, and I just wonder too if the collapse of the charity and his father getting sick at the same time may be a bit of a wake-up call for Harry. I just hope for his sake he is able to make amends at some point. Just, you know, just on the human level. Let's be honest, that would be good for everyone. It'd be good for his dad. It'd be good for his brother. Do they have the same relationship? Probably never. Harry will never get there again. But to make amends and make inroads and sort of, kind of come back together in a familial way is, I think, a good thing. Marjorie says, good afternoon, everyone, from very sunny, warm London. Diane says, I think everyone is oversaturated with Meghan's stupid brands. I know, I am. And the GP fiasco was the last straw for really caring. Yeah, it was just, I honestly, my suggestion would have been to Gwyneth is just let it blow over and move on. It's going to blow over. Meghan's fans are not the smartest or sharpest tools in the shed, so just move on. Guess. That'd be my guess. So Carolina says, hi, everyone. Phew, I made it. Late night gym sess. Good for you. Tracy says, hi from Dallas. We have Susan Kraft. Good morning, everyone. Glad to finally tune in for a live chat with you. Yes. All right. Azima says, hi from Birmingham. Elaine says, Brittany, what are your thoughts about Meghan's shot my using her Duchess title? She should not be using it. She should not be using it. So yeah, I just don't think so. I think it's kind of pathetic. And it just looks like such a soulless cash grab. Buy my clothes so I can make money from my $15 million mansion in my stinking throne room. Like if a wealthy celebrity has a brand that is good, I get that. I get that. If you want to dress from Draper James, go for it. Goop, awesome. Skims, yeah, go for it. Because they are offering you a product that either they probably haven't made, but they've had a connection with and maybe an influence over. What I look at when I see Meghan is just literally somebody who is just like me. Guys, I can tag this shirt, which is available from Nordstrom Rack. I can tag this in the video. Just like Meghan can tag her latest event. Like, that's what's so pathetic. Most celebrities generally do not tag their clothes for people to buy so they can make a commission out of, because that's what non-celebrities do. Influencers do. Celebrities don't do that. They don't do that. It makes her look incredibly pathetic. And the Duchess title is just the worst. Azima says Dr. C will not be fake. So sometimes I would say though, guys, I've seen some, they just trust Dr. C because of the credentials. If you've been watching throughout the whole pandemic period, we've seen a lot of people with credentials who were not necessarily telling the right thing, not saying that she wasn't, but credentials aren't everything is all I'm going to say. So we don't know, again, the true thing. Just because you don't like Harry doesn't mean that she's telling the truth. That's sort of, we'll see. Again, we will see how things shake out. We'll see how things shake out. Creative Chaos, if I say it, I crave real journalism, not gossip. Somebody needs to do a deep dive on these trustees. I really don't think so. I mean, to be quite honest, most of them were pretty on the up and up from what I can tell. There was a mixture of people from the UK and Africa. So this wasn't like a totally white board in the situation. Although some article did say today that part of Sentebale felt very colonial. And the co-founder is a prince from Lesotho. So it's the same country. So again, we have conflicting things here, conflicting issues. And I don't think it's as cut and dry as some are already proclaiming it to be. So it'll take a while for things to suss out. And honestly, we may not know the whole story either way. Gina says, good morning from fabulous Las Vegas. Spring has sprung here. Love watching the Sentebale story, a fiasco for Prince Harry. I mean, it is, but it is also sad because the people of Lesotho are going to suffer. And this charity will fail. I almost guarantee it will fail at this point. Because yeah, it's just, I just don't think people will be if they weren't interested before with Harry attached. And yes, I know some people think, oh, without Harry, it'll be better. I just really don't think so. It'll have some local support maybe, but I mean, it probably wasn't really running all that well anyways. So that might have been a long time going on. Yeah. And so Water said hello. Diane says almost time. And Carol says, hey, Carol, hope you had an awesome week. Carol says, Brittany, any more information on the implosion of Sentebale? So it imploded. Not too much. I was reading the Daily Mail piece again, talking about what was interesting is that I'd have to look at this, and they might have been quoting the Financial Times, and I just didn't know it. But what was sort of interesting is that they did acknowledge that there were consultants brought in, because that is the allegation from the departing board members, is that an exorbitant amount was spent on consultants, and Sentebale has confirmed that consultants were hired, and it seems like there was maybe a bit of consternation there. So we do have some confirmation about that. So they're not necessarily denying that. We don't know the exact numbers. The board members claimed upwards of £500,000. We don't know if Sentebale will admit to that or not, but that's a lot of money to spend on consultants. If that's true, that's a lot of money to waste on consultants. And the thing is, if you can pay money at a consultant, if you can get your money back and money out of it, but if you can't, then it's really a waste of a company, and it'd be like a business too. Somebody who expended a lot more money than they brought in. That becomes problematic. Azima says it starts at 2. Yes. To next week it'll be 3 though for you guys. We switched over our time zones earlier than you did. Tanya Black said, hello, RNN friends. I hope you are all doing well. Yes, we are. Faith says they should and could have gone to the USA and actually do some work for others, homeless or children or unwell or young people or animals or literally anybody or anything. I mean, they do some things, but yeah, I just don't think Sentebale was well run before or after any time. It hasn't been well run. So we'll see. Annie Bach says, good morning, everyone. Hope you are all having a wonderful day. Desert Mermaid says, hello, Brittany and chat. Lady Aviator says, good morning, everyone from Huntsville, Alabama. Love spending my Saturday mornings with you. A nice tradition. Creative Chaosify says, I'm going to say it. I think King Charles is dying sooner rather than later. I mean, that's so hard to say, but yeah, I don't think he'll be on the throne for very long, unfortunately. So Ashley Joe says, I just love the thumbnail of her, very becoming. Marty from Vegas. Yeah, it was so funny because Meghan, I felt like overdid it. It's like Meghan always does. She can't stop acting because Gwyneth was very deadpan. And I feel like Meghan should have I feel like she overdid her reaction to such an extent and was like very over animated about it, that it just kind of read not great. Made for some good thumbnail clips though. Mary Mars says, good morning, beautiful. Violetta says, hello. DS says, Meghan's in complete desperation. When is enough going to be enough? What needs to happen in order for King Charles to do something stripping your title? Your thoughts, Brittany? So my thought has always been is that he needs to tell Parliament. Now, I know he's not dictating to Parliament. He's not demanding they do something. But I think if there was interest there, and Charles said, yes, I would support efforts to remove Harry's titles and get that process started. That I think would work. I think at this point, Parliament won't move unless he sort of gives his permission. And although it's not big on the docket, and obviously UK is instituting some strange rules right now. Like you can't have a ninja sword, because there are so many ninja swords out there. So yeah. So anyways, we'll see. So yeah, UK, like I saw Dan Wooten was posting about these people in a WhatsApp group complaining about a school board and getting arrested for it. Like things are getting crazy there. And although I don't think Harry's up on the docket, I think, yeah, I would not be wanting to live in the UK right now, to be quite honest. So that's just my thought, though. Diane says, hello, Brittany and Miss Pippa. Is Miss Pippa 100% now? She is. Oh, she just gave a big old yawn. So yeah, she's doing pretty good. She's hanging out in her bed over there. I'm wondering, again, who I'm talking to. Although I might have just woken her up enough that she's going to come over and say hi. Heidi said, good morning, Brittany. We have a Milne. Good morning, everyone from Ontario. Teacher Ray Samantha says, Brittany, like your spring getup. Why, thank you. Marjorie says, I do wonder if Invictus will be the next to implode. Probably not. So Invictus is run very, very differently than Sentebale. They have almost zero overlap. And again, just because Harry's head doesn't mean he has a lot of control over the finances and direction and stuff like that. I think he's much more involved in Invictus and he has been in Sentebale for quite a while. And so I think it's very different, but it's Invictus Games should collapse because it's literally unsustainable. Not because of Harry, but because literally nobody attends the events. They have to pay millions upon millions of dollars to get these big stars there to open and close the ceremonies because otherwise they would not be able to get butts in seats. They even got big names and they were still empty seats in those stadiums. So the issue for the Invictus Games is not necessarily, you could say, Harry, but the problem with the Invictus Games is that it's an event with a limited level of an audience. The audience for this is not huge. Ergo, to try to make it this huge thing, it's just not going to happen. Harry wants it to be like the Olympics. It's just not going to happen. Like the competitors are just 500, maybe 550. I don't know. I can't quite remember, but that's been about the number since 2016. So it's not like they're doubling or tripling their number of competitors every year. And you looked at some of the pictures of those individual sporting events and the stands were empty. So on that level, Invictus should implode, not because of anything about Harry, but just simply because it's an unsustainable idea that's not drawing in an audience. They need to rethink what they're doing and actually market the games, not relying on Harry. And I mean, even that was what Sentebale was doing, was trying to not to rely solely on Harry for their fundraising, which was smart. I mean, that's 100% smart. But when it comes to Invictus Games, I feel like they solely rely on Harry and Meghan selling tickets, which is dumb. They're not doing it. And though the event gets some noise, it's mostly about Meghan and her clothes. And then nobody remembers any of the veterans. Like it's disrespectful and insulting to the veterans. They should see it as disrespectful and insulting because it is. So that's the issue with the Invictus Games. Desert Mermaid says something is wrong with the sound. Hopefully not. All right. Beverly says, sorry, I knocked the mic a couple times. This thing is very sensitive. So it doesn't feel like it did much, but I know it probably came through. Beverly said, good morning from San Antonio. Water said, did you hear about King Charles's health scare? I did. Very worrying and concerning. Hopefully, I just worry about him. We have Stephanie. Good morning. We got Kim, USA. Good morning. We got Species 8472 Shadow Master. Good morning, my dudes and dudettes. California here. Rock on. We have Oro. Good morning. We have Kierlin. Hello, everyone. Christina says, good morning, Brittany, Miss Pippa. My umbrella cockatoo. Sugar says, hello. Any update on the Maria situation? Oh, yeah, there is an update on that. So we will do that on the latest edition of the Crown Report. And it seems like that there is another potential case out there. There's another potential assault. That's the latest. So I saw that. I have to look at it for myself. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but yeah. Just gets worse. Just gets worse. And the thing is, for me, I just still come back to like the Norwegian Royal family needs to start explaining this stuff. They can't just like, well, I feel like we're just in this well stage. It's like, well. No. Marius is a problem. And Marius needs to like grow. Well, not to mention the fact that he needs to grow up, but Marius needs to, oh gosh, what's the best word? Marius is just problematic that they need to deal with. And I feel like they're not dealing with him. And like the excuse is, oh, he needs privacy. No, he doesn't. He doesn't. He probably needs to go to jail. And you probably need to start being more serious about this. This is why you had the problem in the first place. It's because you didn't take it seriously. He literally assaulted somebody allegedly in your house and you're still trying to defend him. Yes, I understand. You are his mother, Mara. I met Amara. I understand. But you are literally destroying your husband's chance of the throne, your daughter's chance of the throne. Like you need to buck up here. You need to be a mom, not just, somebody trying to like, I understand she's trying to protect her son, but it's kind of like, when the mom like knows her son is guilty and is still like testifying to his innocence or giving him an alibi. And you're just like, dude, lady. Aw, I feel like she's kind of there. Maria Angeles Ramirez says, good morning, Brittany and Miss Pippa. Caroline says, Caroline, oh, poor Mr. Bogart. That's not pleasant for him. Poor Bubba. Oh, poor Mr. Bogart. Sir Squirrel a Lot says, hello, everyone. Hey, Brittany and Miss Pippa puppy. What a roller coaster ride this week. Phew. Yeah, I was not expecting Sentebale to collapse. Of course, I was never following it. So Demetra says, good morning from rainy Toronto. And we have DS. The whole thing with Gwyneth Paltrow is cringe. Whose idea was that? Yeah, I think it's so cringe. I'm like, Gwyneth, you don't have to do that. No. Rit says baby Pips. Yeah, she's moved. She must have moved. She must have gotten hot because she didn't come and hang out with me. So she must be hot. Princess Goose says, oh no, Brittany wearing beige. Megan's favorite color. So this looks beige, but it's actually a very soft pink. It's coming across maybe beige on camera, but it's actually a very, very soft pink. So that is what the color of this is. It's like, I've purchased a bunch of these shirts from Nordstrom Rack. They're the Vince ones that they've been selling. And I wish they had a little, they weren't quite, the fabric was maybe a smidge thicker, but I do like them because they're long, they're easy. So I do like them. I have them quite a few colors now and quite a few variations. I bought like all the white shirts. Demetra says, good morning, Ms. Viva. Olga says, in her interview, the chair said Harry asked for a statement to defend Meghan. I just don't know. Like, I would have to know the context, but I kind of come back to sometimes to what really sort of worries. I don't know if worries is the right word, but what I see that I think is somewhat concerning is that I feel like she's pushing the exact buttons to get the exact reaction that people who don't like Harry would have. So that's sort of why I'm like, I just kind of got to, I just kind of I'm always hesitant when somebody throws out large accusations and that's sort of their first opening salvo. I'm always hesitant because we've seen a lot, guys. Think about this for the last 10, 15, 20 years. We've seen, not every time, of course, there is truth, but we've seen a decent amount of times where somebody is hit with an allegation that turns out to not be true. So that's just what I come back to. I've always found that prudence is good. And that prudence at the end of the day, like having the slow and cautious approach, trying to see all sides really does end up going well rather than crucifying someone. I just find that tends to go much better, to be quite honest. Kay Johnson says, good morning, everyone. Or Johnson. I almost thought it was Jobson, so I just wanted to make sure I double checked. Water says, listening while working out. Lizzie says, good morning from rainy East Central Wisconsin. And we have Through the Looking Glass channel with Alice. Someone appointed a new board of directors on March 18th, 2025. We don't know who would have had the power to do that other than the Charity Commission if everyone else resigned. So I think she could just do that because once the former board resigned, like there was no case anymore, is my understanding. And so she was sort of free to do what she wanted and she got the new board. So again, guys, a whole board resigning is not unusual. Kay Coffee says, good morning from Florida. Karen C, good morning from sunny Connecticut. We have Francis says, hi, having watched R&M from the beginning, you called it when you said she would have to go back to the TIG as she was unable to do anything else. Yes, thank you. Yeah, she being an influencer is her level. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just, I think what grates on me for a while is that people keep saying she's like this great success, she's doing so much and stuff. I'm like, dude, guys, she's just being a bare bones basic influencer. She's doing the same thing as other women have done for themselves with nothing but a camera and an idea and done better and didn't go to the UK and have a royal title and all these sorts of things. So Water said hello from cloudy Maryland. Lizzie says, it has been so long since I've been able to make a live chat. Oh, and I owe you guys for the members an update on Mama Bird. Mama Bird's doing well. Like not too much to share. I just look at her nest every once in a while and try not to scare her. KCA says, hello from Cork. Hi from Cork. Hello. Carol says, I think Charles really needs to slow down and doing what Catherine did. Probably. But it's hard to because he is the king. And I think William just has a bit of a different approach. Like, I don't think William wants to do the same sort of bread and butter engagements Charles does. He wants to focus more on the big ideas, which I totally understand. So it's just kind of even a difference in style there. And Charles doesn't really want to put a huge burden on William with his young family and his wife. That's kind of the challenge thing too, is that William was going through Catherine's cancer with her. And so it's like, that's just doubly hard. So it's just, he got boom, so it's just so much. Water says, Lady C said that he will be doing cancer treatments for the rest of his life, no remissions. So I think there are some immunotherapies where you can do it consistently. I don't know I don't know the prognosis. I would just say my instinct is it's probably not good if he's getting cancer treatments, but it doesn't seem to affect him like some. He's like getting them weekly. So they're not hugely impactful like some, but I'm just curious what they are. Panagiota says, Sophie, the chair of Sentebale, says Harry asked her to defend Meghan in public after criticism she received, and she said no. Is he really stupid that he doesn't get that she's the problem? I really don't think he asked her. Why would he ask her to do that? That doesn't even make any sense. Now, granted, a lot of what Harry and Meghan do don't make sense, but I don't think Meghan would care if the chair of Sentebale made any sort of comment about her. I don't think Meghan cares enough. I really don't think she does. Like, what would be the point? Why would anybody care to be quite honest, why would anybody care what Dr. Sophie says about Meghan? Like, that just doesn't make any sense. And to me, that just doesn't jive with me, to be quite honest. Like, if she has receipts to show it, then yeah, I'll see. I would like to see emails where that is being stated. Because other than that, it's like Meghan has not had any interaction with her at all. Like, when Harry went to do these fundraising events, Sans Polo, when he went to do the other fundraising in the events of the fall, Meghan didn't go. Meghan doesn't care. Meghan does not care about Sentebale. I don't think. If you think about it, Meghan cares what Hollywood bigwigs say. She does not care what Sophie says, to be quite honest. Again, it comes back to sort of, I try to see things logically. We know Meghan focuses on Hollywood. We know she does all these different things. I don't think she would care. Like, I would need to know the context again of what the issue was that she was trying to, if she was just generally trying to say how great Meghan was. I just, like, we do have people who do that from time to time, but like, why would Meghan have any interaction with Sentebale? She hasn't even been to Les Luthu. Again, why would she care? She doesn't care about Africa, to be quite honest. So I don't think she would care about Harry's charity there or the head of the charity there. That just doesn't make sense to me. So, but again, greater context. I would need to know the context of why. Was it that interaction on the stage that was awkward, which was awkward, but that's also Meghan just wanting to be the center of attention. It's not against necessarily Sophie. That's just Meghan. That's just Meghan being Meghan in the Meghan situation. That's not a particular slight against Sophie, would be my instinct. She would have done that to anybody. So it would be, it's because she's done that before too. She's like, it makes it super duper awkward because she wants to be in the center. So that sort of screams Meghan, but it just doesn't make any sense to me that he wanted her to defend Meghan in public after criticism she received and she said no. I mean, if it was about the interaction, like, I don't think Meghan didn't care about the polo guys either. And there wasn't that much chatter about it. I don't think it makes much sense to me. But again, context is everything. So we'll wait for the context. Kylar says King Charles III should step down for his health and mentor his new son as king. Well, Charles has waited 70 years to be king, so I understand why he wants to stay on there, on the throne. Laura said, happy Saturday, everyone, but especially Ms. Pippa. All right, we do have Fire Elemental gave a super sticker. Why, thank you so much, Fire Elemental. That is so kind of you. And we also have Kat from NYC became a YouTube member. Why, thank you so much, Kat. That is super awesome. Like, trying to keep up with where we are in the chat. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's 10:56, guys, and I'm still on chats from 10:07. So we have Diana says good afternoon from Hungary. We got water. That was a WME stunt, or Gwen just wanted to do whatever we can to do this and go. Yeah, I think Gwen was just like, let's just get this over with. We have Tune the News, and so we have Ritz says the security made them with them. It makes me chuckle. Come on, yeah. Like, it makes Gwyneth chuckle too. She's like, you don't need that, honey. Diane says, I do feel bad for King Charles at his age. It must be so awful dealing with cancer and treatment. I'm sure he's watched very carefully, and any change the doctor wants to see him in the hospital. Probably. Marjorie says, Gwen will get Markled. Meghan is just too toxic and divisive. I don't think Gwyneth cares. Gwyneth has her own bit of toxicity with Goop. A lot of people don't like Goop. She doesn't care. She just wanted it over and done with, and she was not close enough to be Markled. She just doesn't care. So Asma says, should I start a petition for no Invictus to Birmingham? They never seem to work. Yeah, they don't really work, to be quite honest. I don't really sign petitions. They don't ever seem to go anywhere, to be quite honest. Lizzie says, ugh, I finally made it live. Now my phone is going crazy with a work problem. No. Oh, I hate that. Gretchen the First says, good morning, all from rainy and cold Massachusetts. MAGA Woman says, good morning, Brittany and Royal Chat from sunny and surprisingly cool and breezy Florida. DS says, Brittany, do you think Prince Harry's not in any of Meghan's recent photo pics by choice, or do you think Meghan is keeping it all from him? That's an interesting question because I could see it both ways. I could see him not wanting to be involved in it. And then I could also see him being purposely, put out of it. Although she did post a video he had taken, but what was interesting is like, thanks my age for taking this picture. So what I think happened is he was with the kids by himself somewhere else and took the picture and sent it to her, and then she used it. And my question is, how separate are they? Because she's in her kitchen braless with her friend sharing a banana split. And where is Harry? Like, he briefly showed up in the cooking baking episode, but you got to think, like, I think the guy's pretty aimless, pretty hopeless, pretty just kind of that look he had in the show of Meg is just like, this is my life. Is this what I wanted? I don't know, but I'm stuck with it. That's the thing I see from him. And so, I mean, just on a human level, I do feel sorry for him. He did it all to himself. He did it all for himself, but I could, I still do feel sorry for him because I think he was sold a basket of poison apples and happened to take a bite, and the poison and the high lasted for a while. And now he's like, oh my gosh, I've screwed myself 6 ways from Sunday. I'm stuck with this woman. We have children. I'm stuck in a country that's not my own. I gave up everything. I am screwed. And he is. And he did it to himself. Everybody told him not to marry her, get in a relationship with her, but did he listen? No. Okay, so Water says, I love seeing Prince William more active. Did you hear he was doing an EPS with Jeremy Clarkson? Everyone who memes sees as a huge enemy. Yes, I love that he's doing it with Jeremy Clarkson. It's a huge show. People love it. So bravo to him. That was smart. Faith says, I think Gwyneth is taking the Mickey out of Meghan. I think she is too. I don't think she cares about Meghan. Through the Looking Glass channel with Alice says, does look like Meghan let Gwyneth get past the guards. Meghan is eating pie in Gwyneth's kitchen. No, Meghan had to go to Gwyneth's house with maybe one bodyguard who got shown, oh, you get to stay out here for real quick. Because there's absolutely no risk to Meghan. I'm sorry, I want to say no risk. But the risk Meghan has in the Enclave of Montecito is so ridiculous. If she walks around with 2 bodyguards all the time, she's actually calling more attention to herself than less. Let's be honest. Deborah says, the Sidley twin says Gwyneth did the same PR stunt with Black China at some point. Oh, interesting. I don't follow her enough to know, but wouldn't be surprised. Rich says, the funniest thing over the past few days is Meghan thinks she's going to be a billionaire. Yes, that is hysterical. That is hysterical. Carol says, Brittany, your analyst on Sentebale is spot on Sentebale. Why, thank you. Yeah, it's been kind of a strange week because people have very strong feelings about the situation. But I'm like, but knowing having worked in actually NGOs and stuff like that, I just see a lot of things that are just kind of obvious with the situation and knowing how some companies work and stuff. So Yulong says, good morning from Huntington Beach, California. Good morning. Vicky Volk says, good morning from northwestern Louisiana, where the weather can't make up its mind. Yeah, it's been a bit let's say it's been cool and warm at the same time here. Angel A says, sorry I'm late. I was seeing if my daughter wanted to do summer ballet or pom classes. Well, I hope she chose one that she enjoys. Lena Howery says, oi, Gwyneth looks like Jeffrey Dahmer in those free classes. She did. Some celebrities come up with the weirdest classes. I'm like, oh my gosh. History Laura says, Prince William will be on Clarkson's farm season 4. His friend Hugh was on season 3 as a hunter. Jeremy hates Meghan, and on Clarkson's farm will be a classic. Yeah, I love that. Not that they're really low-key trolling Meghan, because they're not, but they kind of are probably in a way. Gretchen the First says, with the Sentebale thing, I feel like I do about some true crime stuff. Not sure who is a good guy or if there is one. Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it, to be quite honest. A lot of people are jumping on a particular bandwagon, and I'm just like, I think there's probably fault on all sides here. I think there's probably fault everywhere. And so this is not an automatic, this person is guilty type of thing. I think it's a very nuanced situation is my assessment. Diane says, I read how lonely Harry is in his mansion. He didn't know about his father in the hospital. He read it in the news after that. After he didn't, I do not care that he may be lonely. I mean, I understand that, but yeah, he did it to himself. He did it to himself. Water says Dr. Sophia may have had a knee-jerk reaction, but I'll believe her first over Harry because this isn't the first time Harry has allowed Charity to do wrong and then turn a blind eye. Still one facts. I mean, we don't have so Sentebale had an issue in 2008, which was years before now. So like I don't know if I would have because I definitely had a knee-jerk reaction almost in the opposite direction because of how her statement was worded. Because I don't think again people want to think Harry has more control over the situation than he does. It was really the board and the chair. That those are the true actual powers in the charity. Harry was more there to help fundraise as a spokesperson and stuff like that. He I doubt he had beyond meeting with the board every other month much impact on the charity. So I think it's a bit of a stretch to say that he's because you have to deal it's not just Harry, but it's like the whole board talking. So that's if he was truly the issue, then maybe he would just leave and everybody stays together. But with the separations and stuff, there are bigger issues at play. Maggie says, Good morning, all. Excellent coverage on Sentebale, reminding us to wait for the facts. Prayers for King Charles. Thank you, Brittany. You are so welcome. Lydia says, so tired of Gwyneth. Wicked Witch, no respect for these two. Yeah. Azuma says, we don't know what happened behind closed doors, so not taking any sides until the full facts come out. Yes. Gloria says, it's more than she said, she said. Things have been bad long before she came on board, follow the money. The money was actually pretty good before then. And so we can go back and look. What we don't actually know is since she became the chairwoman, how the money has been at the charity. That's actually what we don't know because she came on in 2023. The last report we have is from 2023. So we do have a thing. Again, I just feel like the people so want Harry and Meghan to be like stealing money from charities. I really don't think they are. Archwell is ridiculous, but it's a way for them to get a tax write-off. So do I think they're like siphoning money for themselves? Probably not really. For pet projects, yeah, but probably not really. So Fire Elemental says, good morning from Ohio. Caxlar says the Sentebale board did not resign. The trustees and the patron resigned. So yeah, it might be just a different saying, but yeah, like the whole board, they had to get a whole new board though, because that's what we have now is a new one. Creative Chaosify says, regardless who is in the right, can we appreciate that Harry was accused of the very things he accused his family? Fresh chef's kiss. Yes, I mean that is the thing. And I think as well, sometimes it's like she knew exactly what buttons to push to get people riled up about Harry. So it's like, oh, she knew exactly what to do there. So I mean, it worked. So Canada, we have Canada. Oh, Canada in the house here. We have Marlene Dietrich. It sounds like a power struggle. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I think this, at the end of the day, was a power struggle. And Sophie happened to prevail. She kind of did a Hail Mary. They were trying to vote her out. She went to the Charity Commission to stop it. They decided to just dissolve instead. And there you go. Annie Box says, Dr. Sophie fought to stay in charge of a voluntary position. Yeah, because she wanted it. She wanted the job. I mean, people do crazy things. So, and they were apparently discussing compensation at some point. I don't know where there's some people said she wanted 300,000. Some people said it wasn't clear where it landed and they were still in negotiations. So that's what we had there. We have Kimberly. Good morning, Brittany. Ritz says they both need to be removed from the RF website. That would send them into a major tizzy. Yes, they do need to do that. 150%. Water says, I'm happy we are seeing much more Princess Catherine than we all thought. I just she doesn't do too much. Yes, me too. Hasn't started yet, right? It has started, right? I was like, I really hope I'm not talking to the ether here. Lars says, good morning, dear. Yes. Olga says, Taz says Dr. Nancy was a trustee for several years and she was really liked back then. Yeah. But I mean, the thing is, guys, people can change. I go back to bad leaders can be good and good leaders can be bad. Sometimes people, and this has happened too, where somebody bides their time just right and then they enter into this new job and they are a completely different person. I think we all have experienced that on our own levels, that you think somebody is one way, something happens and they can become completely different. So I would say don't, just because she acted one way and is not and ended up acting a different way doesn't mean that that other way wasn't always there. It just might have been the circumstance. Again, people are nuanced. Just because somebody's been consistent one way doesn't mean they can't change. So, Azima says, what's happening with the African parks? I will still keep asking. Nothing. Probably nothing will happen, to be quite honest. Again, I did a whole video on this explaining this. When you are in remote parts of Africa, you're really just going to get press. That's just the reality of the situation. Guys, horrible things happen in places all the time that we just don't hear about because they just don't reach the mainstream news. It's too expensive to send reporters out there, too dangerous. They have to hire security and those sorts of things. And so that's the situation with African parks. It's probably not going to go anywhere. That's just, and it's unfair, but that's sort of the world we live in. Things are unfair. And it's one of those, it's just one of those things. It's just unfortunate, but it's just reality. And it's terrible, but that region of the world, the DRC, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, you're talking about very, very unstable region. Lots of infighting. I mean, more in inland towards the border with, I think they border, what do they border? Uganda or something. I can't remember which countries they border. Anyways, so there's a lot of infighting there, a lot of issues. So yeah, very, very dangerous place in the world. And some places are like almost impossible to reach. And, I've known people who have gone to that country. You're talking about exceedingly remote parts of the world. So just not going to happen. And that's just the unfortunate thing. If the African parks can think they can get away with it, then they probably will. They don't themselves don't even have a good way to measure things, because yes, they are at the mercy of the locals because they don't want to live there. So it's just unfortunate. Godzilla Manstrip says, good morning, Brittany. Good morning. Sharon says, I don't think Gwyneth will be on Meghan's podcast. You, Brittany? No. Kessler says, the trustees and the patrons resigned, carries conflict of interest with with charity money being used for Archwell and Sentebale activities. It seems like part of the money issue was that they didn't actually have any coming in. That seems to be the big issue. Stephanie says, no wrong way around. Harry and the Sluthu Prince spoke out first, kind of smearing her. Dr. Sophie spoke out to defend herself. I suggest you look up Dr. Sophie's CV and her fundraising ability too. So I don't really care about somebody's CV necessarily. It doesn't really dictate a bunch of things in some ways. But my other big thing here is they had to say something, and they weren't smearing her. They were actually just saying we had to resign because we could not. The situation was untenable at that point. That's what they had to say. What were they supposed to say? Nothing. They had to say something. Harry is a big influence. He had to say something. He didn't smear her. He just stated that if you actually read it, it's actually just stating facts. We came to an impasse. She wanted to go a different way and we didn't. And so we had to leave. We're devastated, but that's sort of what it is. And so that's the thing. That's the thing. So Water says, the thing is, Dr. Sophie called the charity into investigation. I feel like she caused some time. She would not call an investigation on herself. Well, it's kind of interesting. I'm still confused exactly on the charity investigation because apparently that investigation is actually not going forward. Once they resigned, it wasn't going forward. And if you actually look at the law firm she hired, it's a HR law firm to represent her. So they deal with a lot of HR issues. So it seems more like in actuality, she was suing just to stay on the charity, not to actually fully investigate some sort of wrongdoing. That's sort of because it's not going anywhere as far as I'm aware. It's sort of like dead in the water now. That is my understanding, is that she filed it and there wasn't even actually an injunction. It just kind of went into stay because the board resigned and they didn't want to fire her on it. So again, I think we're getting these half pictures and people who don't know the UK legal system, which I don't. But that's sort of what I've gotten from some of the reports, is that essentially right now there really is no investigation because the investigation was more, it wasn't really an investigation. It was more of a stopgap to keep her on the charity. So that seems to be what it is. Olga says, if she is the one asking for an investigation on the charity, why would she do that? I think it was actually more, from what we see, actually more about HR issues, not actually investigating the charity. We got fall leaves from Piper. Hello. Miss K says, I just want to say, Brittany, I appreciate your fair reporting on Sentebale. The community on X can be as toxic as the Sussex squats, and sometimes there's just more to the story than it seems. I mean, I would agree with that, and I think so much of it, it's people love to hate Harry, and I do believe there's a lot to just like to criticize him for, which I have a lot, but I also think they're just saying that this woman, of course, of 100% she's right, and in a war of words, nobody is 100% right generally. Generally, everybody is covering their butts. Everybody's covering their butts in various ways. And now that the Harry and the other prince, who's I think Sisu or something, have left, like they kind of screwed her by leaving. And so I think that's sort of her anger, is that they decide to resign too. I think that was her frustration. So PN Newsy, hello from Indiana. We got Gloria. A lot of charity money never got to the charity. Nobody knows what went on behind the doors. Dr. Sophie has a stellar record. Don't disparage her. We don't know. I mean, we only have what is reported. We don't actually know what's happened with her. Like, we have the CV and everybody's putting a lot of stock in that. But again, we don't know actually if there is any impropriety in the charity going on right now. There's no evidence of that as far as we're aware. There's just what she said. And so it is a he said, she said. And we don't know what goes on behind the closed doors. That applies to her too. Again, I think people want to sanctify her, but you really don't know. You really don't know. People just want to sanctify her because they want to hate on Harry. So we don't know where the middle is yet. We'll get there hopefully at some point. But again, prudence. Like, there's been a lot of instances. Think of Amber Heard. Amber Heard got a lot of people on her side by accusing and destroyed Johnny Depp's career for something that was probably really 100% not true. So people do things to get ahead. Just saying it's not out of the realm of possibility. And it's always something to keep in mind. It's one of those things that I learned when I was a historian and research. What is somebody's bias? What is somebody's angle? And you could say, I have an angle. Of course I do. I would say my angle more is that I'm pro monarchy. I like monarchies to continue, but I have like nuances like everybody else. And so the nuance here is that she could have an angle. It's people think she's just altruistic. She could have an angle. There's an angle I can obviously see. And I'm a natural debater. I did a smidge of debate in high school. And so I just have a natural ability to try to poke holes in arguments. And that's sort of what I do. And that's, I think, a good thing for a journalist, a good thing somebody reporting. It's like I can see holes and I'm poking in them because I can see them. And so I'm just trying to encourage other people to know there's holes in this. This is not a slab of cheddar. This is a slab of Swiss at this point. And I can poke holes in both sides of the argument pretty easily. So, and I always come up to the fact of what makes sense. Things generally make sense. People, they all work within their own level of logic, but there is a logic to most everything. And so if you can kind of get a bit inside somebody's head, you can sort of see the logic. And I just come back to it's sort of smart to see that everybody, because then you're not, if you sort of see, and then maybe I'm just cynical. I'll totally admit I'm probably just cynical, but I kind of sort of try to see everything as somebody having an angle, because then you're less likely to be caught off guard by something. So I just sort of think everybody has an angle. That's probably very cynical. That's very cynical. But not always, but like reports, things that come out and everything, that's where I will always lay. And it generally has proven actually to be a pretty smart way to go about things. Carol says, I really think this is an agency problem, culture, class, and communications breakdown, which is leading to implosion of Sentebale. Yes, I would agree. That's 100% the case here. I think it's being blown wildly out of proportion, but this comes down to there's a problem with the charity. There is. I don't necessarily think it's money. I think it's not being run well and it's not having a good impact. It's not having the impact it should. So, and then culture clash. Dr. Sophie wanted to do things one way. The board and trustees wanted to do it another way. And there was a natural clash. And then you have the communications breakdown. So as these issues get larger and larger and larger, communication breaks down more and more and more. And the gap between the two sides get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And this happens. This does. And I think if you see take Harry out of the scenario, this is exactly what happened. And it's something that happens to charities all the time. But with the removal of Harry, I think Dr. Sophie is freaking out because now she has no clue how to raise money because they were struggling with that before under her leadership. So now they're really, really going to be under the gun. And I mean, she's essentially, I mean, she might have been successful in taking it over if that was sort of her aim, but now she's sort of has a dead charity. We have just saying good morning. We have Carrie Piazzafy. Do you think the royal family will step in and clean up Harry's mess again, or are they cutting him loose? There's no mess for them to clean up. This is not their issue. This has nothing to do with them. So Sharon says, Neil Sean said, but we don't have it. Lupa says, of course, you did not read the interview. It's just easier to keep the bias without it. I just haven't known about it yet, guys. It's Saturday morning. Got up not too long ago. Let's be honest. Have I had a chance to review everything? Of course not. It's Saturday. Just saying. Andrea Black said it from Phoenix, Arizona. And also as well, I noticed everybody who keeps saying about the bias also has their own bias. So you can't say it either way. Again, it's poking holes in argument. It's a logic thing. You can't say I have a bias, but then keep your bias and think your bias is okay. Again, and I really don't have a bias here. I'm just going by what I feel makes sense. It's all about logic. Take Harry out of the equation, look at it logically, not emotionally, and you will see sort of the logic there. But again, that's sort of me. I know I'm kind of weird that way. So, Wendy says, I suspect many of her show views are from people watching her work so they can report back what it's all about. Yeah. I would agree with that. All right. And we have Kristen King became a YouTube member. Why, thank you so much, Kristen. That is so awesome to say. I really do appreciate you joining the fam. And then, or the court. I call it the royal court. I need to get better about coming up with names. I need a name for this program. But also I'm like, do we keep it on Saturday forever? I don't know. Because at some point I may have a life and not be able to do it Saturday anymore, guys. That might be a future. Wendy says, I suspect me for, okay, we already did this one. James says, hi, Brittany, love the channel. Why, thank you. Kaxar says, I hope Sentebale gets a lot of donations after this nonsense. It won't. A couple of people might because they hate Harry, but this is not run well. It's just not. I would not donate. Even if there's been products I buy to like not really put one over on Harry and Meghan, but to show my solidarity for a different brand, I would not do that with this. Would not. It doesn't seem well run. And it didn't seem well run before then. If they were showing people, bringing people across the world to show them the work and they didn't donate, that's a really big red flag. And she was there. They did that this October. So yeah, I don't think it's going to. That's just my sentiment. I don't trust her leadership right now. Don't even trust the previous leadership either. So to me, and I would imagine to a lot of people with money, they're going to stay away. Demetra says, I feel bad for the king. He's struggling with cancer and he can't see his grandchildren because of Harry and Meghan. Yes. Oh my gosh. It's so sad. It's so sad. Oh my goodness. Yes. It's just, yeah. I just feel so sorry for Charles. I just do. He doesn't deserve this. He doesn't. All right, Dr. M, thank you so much for the super chat. Thanks for your excellent reporting and superior royal content. Even when Dan Woon tries to bait you with a bit of messiness, you respond with integrity and wisdom. You are a light in these YouTube streets. Why, thank you. That makes me happy. Thank you so much, Dr. M. I really do I really have tried never to get into sort of the messiness. I've tried to avoid it. And there's some things, everybody's free to do what they want. This is totally fine. But I try to look at things differently, which I feel like is what makes this channel unique. If I just went with the mob and what everybody in the mob was saying, then this channel loses its sort of variation for everything. So yeah, well, thank you so much. I do appreciate it so much, Dr. M. Azuma says Omen Scobie has gone very quiet. Yes, he has. He's, I guess, trying to get his show off the ground. I think it'd really be really funny if it was canceled. But like, he's trying to make it in Hollywood. I mean, he's just like Meghan. Think of it. He is just like Meghan. Janet Black says, seems like Harry has lost several sources of income with the loss of Sentebale in the U.S. funds. When is he going to get a job? So he wasn't making any money from Sentebale. USAID funds go to the charity. Again, it is a grant. There is monitoring and evaluation that is done. Were positions in the NGO I worked in that were just monitoring and evaluation and evaluating the grants given by USAID. That was actually a whole department was just monitoring USAID grants. That is how charities function. So none of that went to Harry. It went to the charity. So he was, and he was, I think, minimally involved. We've heard he was like an ocean and like half a world away, guys. He really didn't have much think of the logistics of being very involved in a country that is really far away. It's very, very difficult to have any. So I worked with somebody and she was actually over the Asia office, and she had a terrible time because they wanted us to kind of keep sort of normal work hours, but her team was asleep when she was at work and then woke up and started their day as she was leaving work. So she was really screwed in her ability to communicate with them. And so think about that. And not that she didn't try to oversee to the best of her abilities, but yeah, she had to leave a lot of things to her team because it was just a logistics thing. Logistically here, Harry had very little impact on Sentebale. He was, yes, the founder. He had the vision for it, but he had very little impact, I think, on sort of its future, you could say. Millie says, hey, Brittany. Hey, we got Azima says, where's Christopher Bosey gone? I don't know. I haven't been following him. He got pretty quiet. I think he looked really, really bad because he was going so hard. And it was one of the things that I started clipping because he kept going on and on and on and on and on about this idea that for some reason Florida would turn blue in the last election. Like, guys, he would say that constantly. The blue wave was coming. The blue wave was coming. And then it never came. And I'm like, dude, like Ron DeSantis is a Republican. He's running the state well. Ergo, most likely the state is going to be red. Like, this is not rocket science. And this is not politics. This is just general basic, like, duh. And so he kept going on and on about it. And he looked really red faced. Like, I even called him out on it. And then he like posted something in X at the top. I feel like somewhat responding for me for calling him out, going, you went so hard on this, which made zero sense. And now you look like a fool. And that is like, I was just like, oh my gosh, it was so crazy. All right. Wendy Van Rokel credited your parents for raising you well and for being level-headed in your assessment of things. Why, thank you so much. I do appreciate that. Wendy, I probably get it from my dad. He's very much the same way. And so it's kind of too that thinking versus feeling. If you guys have ever done Myers-Briggs, there are people who are thinkers and feelers. And so for me, I'm a thinker. And there's nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong with the differences. It's just how you perceive a situation. They actually had us do this fun exercise where we had to we were all admins. And so we had to tell each other that they were being fired. And it wasn't real. It was just like pretend. But as a thinking person, my instinct is to go up there, and more it's rare to have women tend to be more on the feeling spectrum. Men tend to be more on the thinking spectrum. And so I kind of do the inverse of most of like my gender, I feel like. So anyways, I came up to the girl I was supposed to be working with, and I went, okay, so we're restructuring the company, and because of that, we're going to have to downsize, and we're, letting you go. I like did it like that. And then she came up and, she was so kind and gentle and sort of slowly leading to it. I was like, oh gosh, I'm like totally, but it was that different thing. And so I think being able to assess like one of my greatest classes, I loved it, was historiography, just understanding how to look at arguments and understanding how to look at information. It's unfortunate that I don't feel like those sort of skills are given to kids much anymore, because it's so helpful to understand things and to look at potential, I don't want to say issues necessarily, but look at the potential pitfalls, because they're there. And it's just better to sometimes not go too far into something. And then I feel like a lot of people end up getting kind of, they end up looking a little red-faced in the end when things don't go quite the way some initially intended. So we'll see. I could be wrong, but the thing is, I would rather be wrong and give somebody the benefit of the doubt than to be right and be on the mob crucifying somebody. That's sort of where I would prefer to stand on issues. That's kind of why, like, I don't go into the surrogacy stuff. I just, number one, I feel like it's attacking the kids, and I don't think that's right. Number two, at the end of the day, the kids are here. Nothing's going to happen. I know some people are so determined that if they can prove the surrogacy, that the kids are going to be removed from the line of succession. I just don't think that's to be the case. Even if the palace knows, I don't think they'll say anything, to be quite honest. And at the end of the day, I think going with logic over other things kind of works. But that's just me. Other people are different, and that's totally fine. That's the thing is, I hope I give you a different perspective than somebody else, and then somebody else, and then somebody else. That way, you can have a bunch of different sides of the information and look for yourself and go, what do I think? Always encourage you. What do you think sounds right? And if you think I'm wrong, hey, you could be right, but I could also be right too. That's the thing too. I think sometimes what I see is like let you now, if somebody's telling you the earth is flat and you know it's round, then that's just silly. But if you have somebody who has a different thought of a situation, I mean, just give them the benefit of the doubt. You may think, well, I still think I'm right. And so it's like, yeah, I'm right. But it's like, oh, well, maybe they could be right too. And just leave that openness because that is where I think discussion and stuff happens is like being open to different sides of things, I think is important. That's just my soapbox for 2 seconds. Lace Hair Wig says, I hope the royal family doesn't bail him out. They won't. They have nothing to do with it. So Chantel says, good afternoon from the Netherlands. Daylight savings will start at 2 nights or I get back to regular programming because the time difference threw me off. It did for me too. It did for me too. And I like it's been weird with Dan because it's like I was like, wait, we had time changed. I had to think about it. And so they've been only 4 hours ahead. So that means I record at a different time. Kimberly says, didn't Meghan mention in an earlier post she wasn't going to given a seat at the table? Do you think it was a dig to put save your seat at the table on her website? Probably. It's also a terrible tagline because we know she doesn't allow people to have a seat at her table. So it's kind of dumb. So not only does she not get a seat, we know she doesn't let people get a seat either. So it's all kind of dumb. All right. So Water says, if King Charles won't start the process to take the titles, he needs to realize an official statement stating they are no longer speaking for the monarchy and do not have power. I do think they do need to do a more solid separation. And Melanie Rose says, my favorite thing to do on Saturday mornings is grocery shop and listen to the best royal commentator. Thank you, Brittany. You are welcome. All right. Marjorie says, I agree. We have to wait for the Charities Commission report. However, it does not reflect well on Prince Harry in the news. Yes. I mean, honestly, though, I honestly think that's people's interpretations of Harry guiding that more than what Harry actually said. It doesn't make him look that bad, really. Because if you think about it, there was like removing some things from it, look at it. It was a difference in communication and he resigned. And it looks bad in terms of the fact that the charity failed, but it doesn't actually make him look bad personally because it was just something where the relationship became untenable. So I just don't think it I don't think it I think people are overdoing the it looks bad for Harry thing because like if you really look at the facts, it just really doesn't. It just looks like two people who went in separate directions. All right, Marcus Anderson just disappeared. Asma said he did because last time I saw him, I'm pretty sure he was at. Well, no, he was at an event Meghan and her friend Kelly were at. But Marcus also went to the South by Southwest event and was basically seemed to be the third in their relationship. So, Creative Chaosify says Harry's best buddy Mark Dyer is on the board, and I think they operate on an old boys network basis. The woman having none of it. I mean, you could argue that you don't really know. At the same time, boards are filled with friendly people to the chair or the trustees or whatever, or the founder. They're filled with generally friendly people. That's been a big kind of sus thing about Disney, is that the board is filled with people who are friendly to Bob Iger, and so they don't really hold him to account because they're all friendly with him. So that's the issue. Princess Goose says some watched with love because they wanted to see what all the hate was about. I saw a few positive reviews of the show. None were sugars. They were new fans. They actually might become new sugars. I mean, I think she gained some fans with the show, but did she gain a bunch? Probably not. I would think if let's look at it like let's say in a spectrum, like 100 people, let's say, okay, let's just say that the viewership was 100. I don't really know. But there was 100%, like 100 new viewers who were just looking to check it out and see what it was all about. I would argue 10% or less became true fans. This little reporter over here maybe became true fans. Everybody else was like, oh my gosh, it was worse than they said. So, all right. We have Anna Sidrone. Thank you so much for the super chat. Hi, Brittany. Hi, Miss Pippa. I may not agree with you about the Sentebale regarding Prince Harry. You're still my favorite from Boston. Why, thank you. Yes, agree to disagree is my philosophy always. So some people can have a different perspective. And things may go left or right. I just what concerns me is seeing people who want to completely like destroy any alternative talk, because that's not really that's not really you being interested in finding the truth. You just want somebody to go after. So I would just say be open to other things happening. Always open, because you never know. Tina says you're doing a great job, Brittany. Why, thank you. And we have a very special guest, guys. Say hello to Ms. Pippa P. She is like 9 pounds of sass, and she's got her little diamond, but she needs a real diamond. She needs a real diamond. Yes, she does. Yes, she does. She needs a real diamond. Do you see everybody? They're out there. Do you see them? Do you see them? Oh, they're right there. Oh, why, thank you. She's like, oh my goodness, Mama, I don't understand what you do in the mornings. And I want to go on my walk so I can do my number twos. That's what she's thinking right now. All right. Regina says, did Gwyneth Paltrow see any evidence of the kids, toys, sneakers, clothing in Meghan's car, share any wallet pictures of Meghan in her cart? I don't think Gwyneth cares. Gwyneth didn't care. Margaret says, no one can convince me Meghan isn't part of a large part of the decision by Dr. Sophie. I mean, that's totally up to you to believe it. I just don't see it. Well, not that I don't see it. I just don't see really any evidence of that at this point. Marjorie says Prince Harry played the victim without any reason. Now he knows how it really feels. That is karma. I mean, he's not playing the victim. He's just merely saying why he resigned. He says he's devastated. Like, I don't think that's playing the victim. I just think that's stating a fact. He would be devastated. Who wouldn't be if the charity they helped found gets totally what is it? Oh, gosh. Sorry. I started reading another question and then I got distracted. So, sorry. Okay. So Miss Pippa said hi and now she says bye. When it comes to like, I feel like he's just stating fact. He had to say why he resigned. And did he have to say, oh, I'm happy to resign? No, he had to say he was devastated. I don't think that's playing the victim card. I think that's just merely stating fact. But I think it's people's interpretation of him, their dislike of him, that results in them twisting it in a way that they prefer. I don't really think he was playing the victim. I don't think he was. I think he was just merely stating fact, because they had to say something. They had to explain. So Wendy Van Rokel says, not sure if Harry has enough space where his heart would be to feel bad about these accusations. I mean, like I would imagine they sting though. They sting. So Cop Watch Imperial says, I appreciate your intelligent and rational coverage of royal news. Why do you appear on Dan Woon, who is not at your level? I enjoy Dan. It's a great learning opportunity for sure. And so I just really do love chatting with him. It's fun. It's interesting. So it's a good opportunity. All right. Aletha says, thank you so much for the super chat. Harry and Meghan don't give anyone a break, hence the hatred. Yes. So they've generated this hatred. So I understand totally why the negative reaction to Harry's statement exists. It's because of him. So much like Harry and Meghan, they are their own worst enemies every single time. So they don't give any of a break. And so it just looks bad and bad and bad and bad. But yeah, it's just kind of difficult. Yeah. So they've generated it. They can't make it go away. So we have Stephanie Barrett. Thank you so much for the super chat as well. What is an incredibly bad look for Harry is resigning from Sentebale, but not from African parks. I agree. Over their inaction to be accountable and stop the air, abuse, rape, torture, and killings. Yeah, I agree. I actually 100% agree with that. Harry should resign from African parks. That's where he should resign from. I actually I don't actually criticize him he should resign from both. The thing is, if you are unable to agree with the vision of the new chair and you are being asked to do things you don't want to do as the patron, then you have the right to resign. You have the right to resign. And so I think that's totally fine. And then when it comes to the African parks, like again, I feel like there's some pretty solid evidence there. Like people actually went into the jungles. Granted, these were more independent reporters to get this story. And Harry has like no reaction to it. He's still fundraising for them. That I think is the greater sin here. I do think he should resign from that and make more public statements. I actually think that's what turned Jack Royston against him and Meghan, is their inaction on African parks. I noticed that he's, the a Newsweek reporter who many has been pro Harry and Meghan for most of the time. All of a sudden, he sort of turned on them, and everybody's like, "Why?" Well, if you notice, if you watch around the time he started reporting on the African Parks incidents, that's when he turned because they weren't doing anything about it. And Harry had no reaction to it. And he just said, "Well, I sent a letter to the board or something." And I'm like, what does that mean? So I think I agree 100%, Stephanie. That is the worst look for Harry, quite honest. The Sentebale thing, again, just looks like a general collapse in competing visions and directions for the charity and everything. I almost always want to say company because it is a business function. This does happen in business. Actually, the whole when I was looking at it, because I was sharing some articles with people on X, and one of them was like, well, the board resigning was childish. And I found like all these articles talking about the entire board resigning. And yes, trustees or whatever they called, but they're essentially board members. That's kind of how they function. And so they share like an entire board resigning in protest is not it's not unusual. Happened with 23andMe, which is filed for bankruptcy. Just FYI, if you have your DNA there that you tested, then they have something. So, anyways, just pointing that out there. So, yeah, I think Harry should resign from there. Seba says, thank you so much for the super chat as well. Got here late. What about Meghan, Harry, and Gwyneth all signing on talent agency MN2S? So I looked into that, and I don't think MN2S is a real thing. So what do I mean by that? Because I looked at it. Didn't make any sense to me because they're listing basically every single celebrity out there anywhere. Any celebrity is on that list. And that's impossible. So what do I think this is? I think that's it's a secondary, it's like a middleman. So if you contact MN2S, what happens? Although I think maybe some people are really on it, what I think is happening is that you contact them and they attempt to contact the celebrity you want to contact to set up their appearance at something. That's what I think is happening. That's what I think that organization is. Because I was looking at the list and like Reese Witherspoon was on it, and like I was like, I really don't think that she would be on something like it. Just didn't make any sense to me. So, guys, again, what I think is that when it comes to NN2S, it is an organization that's a middleman. So they have basically every celebrity on there. They have a person you can contact, and that person then works to try to contact them through WME. Now, granted, MN2S may have some sort of line of communication, and so they may have better access than you do as Joe Average. So that's what I think is going on there, just in case people were curious. So yeah, because I did see that, and I was like looking into it, and I was like, there's no way they are representing all of these people. That's impossible. Didsfan 219212 says, and it gives me nightmares every single time. So it said earlier, which I guess I missed. Must have been in between. Didsfan says, every time I see Meghan, I immediately think of my friend's daughter who looks just like her, and she's Filipino. And it gives me nightmares every single time. So thank you so much for the super chat. And I can imagine it does, because that would be just little like, wait. And I think it was Elizabeth Holmes who posted that Abigail Spencer looked like Meghan from behind with a big bouquet of flowers. And I'm like, yeah, but the thing is with Meghan, when it came to Hollywood and Meghan, I 100% believe Meghan used her physical ambiguity. What I mean is that she could seem white to some people, she could seem black to some people, she could seem Asian maybe, or Middle Eastern or something. Like she was in this sort of middle where she could play it either way. And I think depending on what audience she had, she played it different ways. So CW says, but I heard the Team Harry board members were trying to have the proceeds moved to Archwell so they could take their cut, then move them back to Africa. Dr. Sophie was not in agreement. That's not how charities work. You don't get a cut of a charity. That's not how it works. That would be, highly illegal. That would not happen. That's just not what happens. So like, does that happen in some? Yes, but that's not how it should happen. I doubt the trustees would get any sort of thing. If they wanted to move it under Archwell, I could see that from a perspective of trying to better have Harry have, be able to protect it better, I guess you could say, by having it under the umbrella of Archwell, which has more money. But they also were moving it back to Africa, and they wanted it to be more localized, which I get 100%. And yeah, so I think that that makes sense. Like I think this whole idea that people have that people are taking like a cut of the charity is just not true. Stephanie says, when Meghan came along, her interference kiboshed the informal but lucrative association with Audi with the Royals, including their significant funding of Sentebale. Not a good look for the charity. I just don't. I so Royals, if the relationship broke down, I doubt it's solely because of Meghan. Again, people want to make Meghan the boogeyman every single time. She is a lot of the time, but not all the time. Again, bad leaders can be good leaders can be bad. So what we have here again is if Meghan, I just don't really think Meghan can impact things 100%. But I just don't think, guys, she cared enough to be interfering all that much in Sentebale. She didn't care. She didn't care. She doesn't give two craps about it, in my opinion. So she's more concerned about her brand and the money and Netflix and stuff to really give all that much of a crap about the relationship with Sentebale and on Audi. I just don't think she interfered that much, to be honest. But for those who don't like Meghan, it makes sense. But I'm trying to look at it from an objective perspective and what really actually makes sense. And granted, I could be wrong, but I find if I look at things this way and try to remove my bias from it, then it tends to work out better in the end. It tends to work out. Now, it may take a couple years or two to find out if things are right or wrong, but I tend to find that it works out better. Rose says that Mark Dyer is Harry's friends, but also involved in Sentebale. Yes. Again, charity and boards, there's lots of overlap. Azuma says hearing from both sides helps the situation, understand the situation of Sentebale. Yes, you have to hear both sides. You can't just say, oh, well, they're lying or they're lying. I think both have kernels of truth in them. That's the thing. You have to take both with a little bit of grain of salt and you mix them all together and you come up with a glorious dish, you could say. So I would suggest anybody looking at the situation, read both sides. Don't just dismiss it, claiming that, oh, they're just for Harry. They might also be wanting to represent the charity they were involved with. They might just be, feeling the hurt of the collapse. They might even be sad of its collapse. And I think there's this idea that it's all about Harry. It's really not. It's really not. Try to remove Harry from it and look at the situation objectively. That will give you a better viewpoint into what's happening. Lydia says, so tired of Gwyneth and Meghan's no respect lost for these losers. Meghan enjoys a good and bad review as long as she's on the news. Maybe she should stop covering Meghan. That's just not going to happen. So yeah. Creative Chaosify says, I'm always a fan of evidence and keeping an open mind. Yes. Encourage everybody to do that. So Nellie says, hi, everyone from South Africa. Hello. Just me says, I'm so happy I made it for a live. Tell Miss Pippa, me and my 3 fur babies say woof woof and we love her. Why, thank you. I'm just trying to see where she is. Okay. I saw her. I just feel better seeing her where she is at. But I don't want to kick her by accident by moving my legs down or something. Oh, there she's like, well, I saw you. You saw me. I saw you. Come on. Do you want to come up? Good girl. She's bad girl sometimes. Sometimes she doesn't eat her breakfast. And then I end up wasting her breakfast. So hopefully she ate her breakfast today. Want to finish it up with me? Okay, if you lick my face too much, then you can't stand up here. Pat said, good morning, everyone from Oklahoma, wishing for a wonderful and blessed day. Why, thank you. Shaz says, I'm listening but packing at the same time. Gloria says, talking about Dr. Sophie, none of us don't know her, passing judgment and protecting Harry. Just the facts, folks in the courts wait for the outcome. Gershon the First says, what was the point of Meghan's Instagram video with the raspberries? I thought she was going to announce the brand tomorrow. So we'll see. Marjorie says, I understand that as ever products are not organic. How is that when Meghan is so pro organics? Will be interesting to see who's producing the products and the ingredients. Yeah, that'll be really interesting. We don't know for sure yet. And yeah, it's just, I think it looks, the whole idea of basing, like her $1 billion idea, guys, is spread. Okay, good. I have jam all over my desk right now. I should take some of it downstairs, but I have it all over my desk so I can use it for videos and stuff. No, you don't get to look at my face. And I like, it's because it's so readily available. Like she's not offering anything new or different. Maybe she has a slightly different recipe, but like how much better could it be? It's just weird. Chonky says, how true that Meghan wanted to funnel the money meant for Sentebale into Archibald first so they get paid for their appearance when what's left is being donated to Sentebale. We don't have any evidence of that. And again, it's not necessarily a terrible idea to give maybe Sentebale a little bit more protection because Archibald has more money and Archibald has a bigger footprint, but no evidence of that at this point. Clyde says Gwyneth is just as bad as Meghan. I say wooden spoons at dawn. Blue Grass Thrift says, what percentage rate does Meghan get for the affiliate links, marketing links? Depends. So this is a great question. It depends. So when I am doing it, I can, if I'm doing affiliate links through YouTube, I can look through and decide. So I grab, so you can decide it can be 15%, it could be 10%, it could be 0%. Some like computer stuff is like that. It could be, 25% maybe on like a good day or something if they're having a really good promotion. So you have a variety of levels where you can get good deals. Babette says someone could probably do well with a shop my doing a get look for less, but maybe add some color. Yeah, I think honestly, especially I think her beauty will do better because beauty is cheaper. But I think when it comes to her fashion, like it's just yeah, it's just kind of lame. And I think she's misinterpreting. I think she thinks people are making a boatload of money off her fashion. I really don't think they are. Are they making a modicum? Yeah, sure. But what they do is they do dupes. They do dupes of the real thing. And so, like, and discerning people who have the money are more likely to know about affiliate marketing. I mean, we're all pretty familiar with it at this point, and more like likely to go, no, I'm not buying this from Megan is like, yeah. So Ellen C says, thanks for your great insights, Brittany. You are welcome. Water says, I'm not taking Dr. Sophie's side, but Harry's a known liar and will throw people under the bus to protect himself. Also, she was the one who filed the investigation on them. Yes, but we don't know how truthful she is being either. We don't know. Again, it's one of those kind of lawyer debater things. It's just like looking for the holes in the argument. Yeah. So Stephanie says Megan really screwed up by showing the footage of the mass-produced raspberry spread on Instagram, proving it's all nothing special like she previously implied and not made in-house, not organic. I do agree with that a bit. Demetra says, I agree with your opinion about Gwyneth 100%. Why, thank you. Danny T says, your here hit like this lady gives her time and more a like is a second of your time for all the hours this same lady puts in for our viewing pleasure. Oh, why thank you. Why thank you. Loretta says, Trump is not a good person or a good leader. Sorry to have to drop because you supporting this dictator is too much for me to hear. Have a great day. I'm not supporting him. I'm just merely saying good leaders can do bad things. Bad leaders can do good things. That's just life. That's just life. That's just history. Ivan the Great, Ivan the Terrible. I keep saying Ivan the Great. Ivan the Terrible was terrible, I'm sure, but did some good things. Peter the Great was great, but also did some terrible things. Again, human beings are not this one size fits all. So yeah. Clyde Wilson says Asimo, she won only because of all the years that year because all the movies were dogs. Hers wasn't that bad. Period. Look it up. Interesting. All right. Wendy says Ms. Markle is a dabbler. She dabblers in everything and goes quickly on to the next thing. With her available money, she probably expects her toadies to make it happen while she takes the credit. Yeah, I think that's sort of the thing is that she just expects it to go well. And I'm like, I just don't think it's gonna go well. Hudson Saint and Co says legally she could be anything could be a spread. However, certain guidelines and criteria have to be met in order to call your product jam, jelly, preserves, or marmalade. She can't call it jam, which is like crazy when you think about it. That's crazy. That's crazy. Ren says, what has Harry done for this organization? It seems that you are biased. Well, kind of, you are biased in the opposite. That's the thing. Everybody is biased. So that's the thing. But when it comes to this organization, Harry founded it. I don't think he was that engaged in it, to be quite honest. But that doesn't mean that he was everything he's being accused of either. Again, that's the way, just the way to look at it. Nancy says, I was under the understanding that only the royals' surnames can be Mountbatten and Windsor. So how can Meghan call Lily and Archie and have the same last name Sussex because they are royal? So you have the choice between using Mountbatten and Windsor or the title name. So they can use Sussex. It's not, it's shorter, makes more sense. I'm still firmly on the belief that Meghan can't use Mountbatten and Windsor. I'm still on the belief. Yeah. So, anyways. J.S. Crawford said, at most, I think Meghan constantly diverted Harry's attention away from his charity. That is 100% true. I believe that. So I think when it comes to this charity, Harry was just like anything. And well, and it's like removal too. I don't even think from the UK he was probably as invested as he should have been. Now, was I think things healthier when he was more involved and in the royal family? Yes, because he had his team of royal advisors who could have read it as or sorry, who could have helped with it as well. But with the move to California, with Mexico, with the collapse of so many things, yeah, I think it got totally put on the back burner. And I don't think Meghan cared enough to tell Harry he should work on it. I don't think she cared. If he worked on it, great. If he hadn't, he doesn't care. Rachel Wilson says, have you not read the Financial Times today? I think you'll find the entirely wrong about Markle not being involved. Well, people can say things and they cannot be true. So I will read it, but I am skeptical. I will read it with a level of skepticism, which it should be. It's always skeptical to so it's always good to be skeptical. And if you think about it, portraying Meghan as a victim, there's certain segment of the population that absolutely loves that. Is she sorry, not the victim. If you're portraying Meghan as a villain, there's a certain segment of the population that will eat that up. And so that gives me pause because I just don't think we have zero evidence she has ever been that involved in Sentebale. Zero. So we just have somebody saying it now, which gives me pause because we know, again, this is just about how to think about arguments and how to look at things with a level sometimes of skepticism, which is that if you are trying to salvage something, you need a villain. And Meghan Markle's a pretty convincing villain 9/10 of the time. So, just something to keep in mind. Just something to keep in mind because we have no clue of what she's telling us the truth yet. Now, if she has all these emails, then I will amend. But again, I would prefer to go with giving somebody the benefit of the doubt than crucifying them or going with the mom. That tends again to get better. That tends to be a better outcome. It tends to be a better outcome. I tend to not get egg on my face too much if I do that. Renee says, regardless of the objective truth, the irony is not lost to me that they may have been accused of racism and bullying as he did. Yes, that to me is actually the more interesting factor. When Richard Eden said that, I was like, ooh, that is good. Because again, whether it's true or not, if she accused them of doing the same thing that they had accused other people of doing, then there would be I would totally 100% get that. I would like the irony there is huge. It would be so huge. Liv, my yellow lab says a media reporting Harry heard he found out the king was hospitalized through the news. He had to have that leak so nobody, so no wonder the palace didn't tell him. Yes, but also like you could actually make that supposition. You actually, I mean, to be quite honest, like how quickly was William informed? Because not all the time, if your parents are having an issue, especially something with a routine concern, would they automatically call you about it? That sometimes. And so I think that's more of just general obvious because sometimes I see reports and I was like, well, yeah, duh, of course the person would feel that way. And so it's like, did they really get that information or are they just stating the obvious? So do I think Harry was told? No. Do I think he found out through the news? Yes. Do I think that somebody had an insight that that's what happened? I'm not sure. But because I'm not even sure, again, guys, although it makes a bit more sense because William is going to be the future king, is William informed every single time there's a little blip on his father's on the radar of his father in terms of his health? That I don't know. That I don't know. Because sometimes your parents don't want to tell you everything. So Michelle says, I can't believe your point of view with the Sentebale scandal. Congratulations. It actually made change mine. Sometimes you need to be as objective as you can. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, I think objectivity is good. Think for yourself. You still may come to a different conclusion than I do, but think for yourself, but also make sure you're taking in all sides before coming to a conclusion, because that you tend to come out, again, a bit better. So Jax Nana says, I hope the U.S. government thoroughly investigates Archwell and the Sussexes. I can't wait until their misdeeds are brought to light. Can't wait till Will ascends the throne. Again, what if there isn't anything wrong? What if there isn't? I mean, I think people think they find things. I'm just not always convinced it's exactly what they think it is. So I'm not fully convinced as of yet. So we shall see. But I don't think there's It's a big thing. So Gina says, Ian Romlinson is on the newly formed Sentebale board. He was previously chair of Prince William's conservation charity Tusk Trust. In the Financial Times today, that link with William could be better. It's really like this whole idea that guilt by association, sometimes it's there, but sometimes it's not. These people were there before and after the split from the royals. So this idea that you just wanted that all these people are just bad because they've associated with Harry, I just think is wrong. There's good people who have associated with Harry, including his members of his own family. Again, I just think there's just such this rush to kind of criticize everything that just kind of gets a little bit lost. All right. So TD says in Scotland and the Wakari are ruling it here. The rules not geared for UK people. Very bad times. Highest energy bills in the world and going up and getting unlivable for most of us. It is very sad. Stephanie Barrett says Meghan's bad acting stood out so much next to the Oscar-winning actress, especially her inability to hide her smugness. Smugness is never a good look. I wonder if Gwyneth knew that would happen. I mean, honestly, guys, you could think more honestly that Gwyneth is trolling Meghan by putting her on her Instagram and allowing Meghan to make herself look like a fool. So I just think that's kind of fun. Creative Chaosify says, oh Lord, Marius is a gift that keeps on giving. And by gift, I mean dumpster fire. Yes. Yeah. TD says maybe Dr. Sophie is a Meghan. If not true, who knows? That's actually a very interesting question. It's a very interesting question to consider. And again, because a lot of people kind of jumped on the Harry and Meghan bandwagon based on what she said in the Oprah Winfrey interview and then kind of fell off. I mean, it pulled a lot of people against them too. But Azimus has met Marit. What about your other children? Marius is not your only child. Yes. But like, golly, I mean, I think she feels bad because he's not the blood royal and everything. But yeah. So. Ashley Joe says, Britt, I remember when you had a few hundred on these lives. Now 1,500. Bravo, lady. Bravo. You're doing great work and it pays. Why, thank you. That is so kind of you to say. All right. Caroline says, how excited it's raining. Just us Perthites get very excited when we get the first rain after a long, hot summer. Haven't seen rain since November. Just went outside to whiff it. Oh, so nice. I love the smell of newly fallen rain. So encouraging. All right, we got V Queen. Thank you so much for the super chat. It's all making sense now as far as the Sentebale mess. None would have happened had Meghan behaved like a human being during the photo op with Dr. Sophie. That was beginning of the end, but will it cost them? I mean, I do somewhat disagree because it was just like one moment. We don't know what happened before or after that. And if that was like something where, I mean, we've seen other instances where Meghan has been weird and she hasn't demanded apologies from people publicly. So I just don't think that was what actually happened. But yeah, I don't think Meghan, I honestly, my personal opinion here is that Meghan Meghan just did not care about Sentebale and just wants to be in the front of the picture. She would have done that to anybody. That's the thing. She would have done that to anybody. And who knows, maybe Sophie was frustrated with Meghan and how she behaved. Well, I mean, that's what you're saying, but in a different way than you think Meghan was frustrated with Sophie. So that would be sort of interesting. And so, yeah, it's just kind of one of those things where There's a lot going on here, a lot of dynamics, and we don't know the full story. And I'm just trying to share a different interpretation. But thank you so much for the cat chat, the queen. And we will see what happens. But I would say, guys, temper your expectations. I don't think this is going to be a huge like revelation or something. Isa Texas says, don't you think Meghan is just jealous of Sophie's success? I think Meghan cares about the Polo video. No, she doesn't. She doesn't care. Meghan is Hollywood. Everything for Meghan is about Hollywood. Polo at the end of the day really doesn't matter to her. I mean, she even called it like, what did she call it? Like tailgating or something. Polo's like tailgating, which is not. So I don't think Meghan cares. And Meghan's success is not a college degree. For success, Meghan is Hollywood, being paid attention to in Hollywood. That's what Meghan cares about. Meghan cares about. So to Meghan, I just don't think any of it would be an issue. So Sheriff in Tennessee says, I can absolutely see Harry wanting Dr. C to defend Meghan. Meghan was criticized for that video quite a lot. That video is still being played. I can see Meghan being angry about it. I honestly, she doesn't care, guys. She does not care what Dr. Sophie thinks of her. Again, Meghan cares with the Hollywood elite. Why do you think Meghan went to Gwyneth Paltrow's house? She cares about what Gwyneth Paltrow thinks. She does not care, I don't think, about what Sophie thinks. I'm sorry, she just doesn't. She cares about what Hollywood thinks. That's where Meghan's focus is. This idea that she's all that engaged in what is happening with Sentebale and everything, does not care. Does not care. So that is my personal opinion. Because think about where Meghan puts her values. Her values are in money. It is in Hollywood. It is in influence. It is in Montecito. That's where Meghan sees wealth, privilege, everything. Sentebale is a blip on the radar she doesn't care about. So I don't think she's that invested. She doesn't care that maybe she looked a bit awkward with Dr. Sophie. She got to stand next to her husband and be in the forefront of the pictures. Like Dr. Sophie's complaints wouldn't matter to her. Wouldn't matter to her. I think that's a pretty good way to look at it. So yeah, Stephanie says my knee-jerk reaction was against Harry because of turning a blind eye to African parks, not doing anything to stop or be accountable for the abuses of Indigenous African people. Yes, but it is a bit of a different situation than what is being alleged there in Sentebale. So that's why there's a bit of a difference. So Clyde says, what really did Harry ever know about running a charity? Because your mother doesn't make you competent, obviously. What experiences you have? I would say his mother didn't really run a charity either. He's just a patron. So he's a patron like William's a patron and Catherine's a patron. Sometimes they are heavily involved in something and sometimes they're not so involved. So like there was one thing, and I can't remember what it was, one of Catherine's charities, they had to close a center or something. And some of the Sussex Club were like, what about Catherine? How does she not know X, Y, and Z? I was like, because she's not involved at that granular level. She's there to represent them broadly, but she doesn't know the intricacies of what's going on behind the scenes. So they can show her totally fake documents if they wanted to. Not that any of them should, but if William and Catherine, and it would be different if it was early years or the Earthshaw or Tusk or something, but if one of the charities they're associated with comes under financial scandal, it really doesn't have anything to do with them because they had very little involvement in it, especially if it's one they only kind of visit every couple of years. I wouldn't really blame them because they're not really there. So that's what let's be looking at. So surprisingly delicious says, yeah, but isn't it interesting how Archwell got USAID money? Charity got USAID money, and what happened with the money when it got there, and who got the money, and where did the money go? So again, guys, this is how USAID works. They have a whole bunch of grants you can apply to. Anybody can apply to them who is a nonprofit. Doesn't matter if it's Harry and Meghan. Doesn't matter if it's a radical pro-abortion group. Doesn't matter if it's a radical pro-life group. Everybody can apply to them. That's sort of what makes USAID unique. Lots of money got wasted, 150%. But generally, this is how it works. You apply. You get a grant. Or you apply, and if you got the grant, you got the grant. So you get to take that money and you get to do with it as specified in the grant. And then after you're done, you have to give an account of that to the US government. Now, do they probably watch it as closely as they should? Probably not. But that is how grants actually work. It's not this money laundering scheme that people think it is. Do people take that money and make of it what they will? Yes. But do we have any of that evidence with Harry and Meghan? No. Do we have evidence that it was wasted on frivolous projects? Yes, probably with the US government. But that is actually a US government issue. Harry and Meghan can't help that they applied and got approved for a USAID grant. They decide to apply. It was open for them to apply. They did. They got the grant money. That is how this works. There is not a great conspiracy here and a money laundering scheme. I'm so sorry, but that's just not how this works. So just again, I just see so much about USAID. And I was like, I just, because I think of how Doge has portrayed it, which is accurate, which I think a lot of money was laced with USAID, but the functionality of it is not this huge, like it was a thing where people could apply for grants as specified with particular instances, and they got the grants. Was it a waste of money to, let's say, fund research for guppies in like Uganda or something? Yes, I would agree it was probably useless. Is it useless though to address, Ebola in Liberia? Probably not. Probably not. Probably get a pretty good idea. So there was things that were wasted, things that were useful, but thousands of NGOs, guys, thousands of them applied for USAID grants and got them. This is not a Harry and Meghan issue. So Hudson, Saint, and Co., thank you so much for the super chat. If it was doing well, she definitely would barnacle to it without real involvement. She's not much involved in anything right now. It's why she fails. Remember, she pegged herself a philanthropist. Yeah, but it's his thing. It's his thing, and we've never seen her be at all. She's never gone to Les Luthu. She's never had, as far as we're aware, any connection with the board. She shows up at the polo matches, and that's it. That is it. Why? Again, think of Meghan. Everybody resides in the realm of their own logic. Think of Meghan. What does she value? She values money. She values Hollywood. Dr. Sophie and Sentebale are none of those things. So does she care? No. Is it focusing on women? That's her other big issue. No. Does she care about Africa? No. So why would she care? She doesn't. She does not care. And I think that's the thing is she will barnacle herself to things, but she doesn't barnacle to herself to stuff she doesn't really care about. She doesn't care about Sentebale. She doesn't. We have zero evidence she has spent really much time ever engaged in anything Sentebale that is not a fundraising activity in terms of her husband wants her to go and she is forced to go even though she doesn't really want to go. That is the extent of her Sentebale activities. We have zero evidence of anything else. And I just highly, highly doubt it. It's not something that she values. It's just not something that she values. So that's just something, again, to look at, something to keep in mind. Sharon says, I depend on this channel for clarity. Thank you. You are so welcome. So Wildcat Wilma says, you can't make claims that Harry is not at fault and then turn around and say it's not run well by Dr. Lady C without more context to back up your claims and show your bias. So actually, what I'm saying is that overall it's not run well because Harry, he was a patron, but he was not generally very involved at the granular level, whereas Dr. C probably was. And not saying that it was her fault either, but if Harry and her together tried to get donors in October and could not get them, that indicates to me that the potential donors saw something they did not like and something that worried them, that concerned them, that made them not want to invest in the charity. And it could be her leadership. It could be Harry's involvement, although I sort of kind of doubt it. It could, but it's most likely if they were brought there to Les Luthu and they saw the whole thing and they were like, and at the end of the day, they held out their hands going, help us. And they're like, no, what that tells to me is that these discerning investors saw things that concerned them deeply enough where they were not willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. So as Sophie is the chair and one of sort of the leaders of the organization, that indicates to me that it was probably her a bit. It was probably Harry. but most likely it was how the organization was being run. And she had control since 2023. So by 2024, if there were grave concerns, that it was her rodeo at that point. So were problems existing before? Probably yes. Was it probably just coasting and not doing much? Probably. Was that Harry's fault? Probably a little bit. Was it also the rest of the trustees' fault? Probably. Was it the other chair's fault? Probably. And so it was there's a lot of guilt to go around here, but what I see is a constant. Again, I come back to, if there's discerning investors, people who've made a lot of money, who have invested in charities and are brought on a wonderful trip to Africa to invest in this charity, and at the end they decide not to, gotta wonder why. Because I have been on those style of charity trips, actually. I've been on one, and they pull out all the stops. They do put you up in a pretty nice hotel, and they do allow you to go to these events, and they do want you to engage and all these sorts of things. And they want you to make sure you're seeing the work on the ground be fruitful. But if a discerning investor is on the ground and they do not see the work being fruitful, they're not going to invest. It's that simple. It's that simple. That's not bias. It's just pure business. That's pure business. And I know I say business and it's charity, but the same principles apply. It's just that the end goal is different. The nonprofit is to help people and utilize the money that is being raised to give back locally, internationally, what have you. Whereas a business is there to make money and raise capital and actually, get investors and those sorts of things. But you could say donors and investors are kind of synonymous in some ways. High level donors are people who have donated consistently over years and years, and they donate high levels. They donate high levels, you get particular perks. And I guess the problem is that these were going to be potential high level donors, but they hadn't donated. And so they were trying to like sweet talk them into donating. And they took a look at what they were seeing with the charity and went, no. Again, guys, that should tell you an immense amount right there. That should tell you an immense amount about there were troubles. Harry was part of it. Dr. C was too. You can't eliminate her from it. Everybody was part of the problem. And so there were problems. And they wanted to go in a different direction, which is fine. But it just wasn't working. So Azima says, being logical is smart and intelligent. It is. It is. So Marjorie says, Brittany, do you believe in the statement history repeats itself? To me, it seems so. People do not learn. Yeah, of course. History repeats itself, but does it in, I think they said what it does it. I can't remember a thing. But there's different seasons, but human nature remains the same. That's the thing. It's not really that history repeats, it's that human nature does not change. That is actually the baseline of civilization. It's that human nature, regardless of whatever, never changes. So because of that, there's a human nature I can see in the situation with Harry. And the human nature essentially is that it's going to there's a failure here. So that's what it's telling me. Oh, this is good. Okay, we need to wrap up here in a second because you guys have a Saturday, I have a Saturday, but let's go. So Jacqueline, and for some reason, the system has been screwy, not letting me click on things sometimes. Okay, there we go. Jacqueline says, sorry I'm late. Did anyone see the joke that Bill Maher made on his show last night? He joked that Greenland offered to take Meghan Markle if America would just go away. Oh, that's good. That's so good. That's so good. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, opinion. People could hate Harry and Meghan's behavior, but can't imagine that is about hating them personally. Yeah, I guess. So, Seabass says I read they paid the full price for Harry's travels. So do a lot of charities, guys. This is not unusual. That's the thing. It's not unusual at all. Especially if you're trying to wine and dine potential donors, you will probably most likely pay for their transportation. Yeah. Sorry to bear the rough underworld, I guess you could say, of nonprofits and charities, but that's just kind of how they roll. That's kind of their role. Again, I am all for criticizing Harry and Meghan where it's due, but what I see is what other charities have done. And that's not a surprise. That's not a surprise at all. So Stephanie says, yes, avoid the messiness. Sometimes I wish you'd ask Stan for actual evidence of what he was saying in a nice way, like, hey, I haven't seen that evidence like that. Where does that come from? I mean, that would be a good question to ask every once in a while, because sometimes I'm like, where did all this come from? I don't know. But I know some people really do hate on the mainstream media, and I totally get that. They deserve so much of that. But at the same time, I see a lot of people dismissing like the Times of London, and it's like, but the Times of London is the newspaper that revealed the allegations of bullying against Meghan Markle. So to dismiss them here, but not to dismiss them there, again, is a failure in logic. The Times of London is a very reputable newspaper. They tend to lean conservative. They tend to lean pro-royal. Their all their articles go through a lot more legal layers than I would say the Sun or the Daily Mail or something goes through. So if they're reporting it, they have good solid, and it's pretty unbiased, to be quite honest. It's pretty unbiased. People say it's biased because they're showcasing the board members of here of the or trustees or whatever, a Sentebale. No, that's not being biased. That's simply saying these people are speaking out. I have interviewed them. This is what they said. I just feel like there's just such a misunderstanding. There's 100% bias in the news, but what I see here is just like, we're trying to investigate what happened. This person is willing to talk. We're going to give this person a platform to talk. It's not that hard. But so much is going on. TD says, hardly busting your butt with an original idea. I don't think Goop is original, maybe one of the early ones, but hardly groundbreaking. Expensive clothes, food, jewelry. Goop wasn't. Gwyneth Paltrow wasn't the face of it. Probably. I would agree with that. If Gwyneth Paltrow probably wasn't the face, probably wouldn't have done them well. Yeah. So, through the Looking Glass channel with Alice says, I'm a flowchart person. I had to break down legal arguments when I find a apply case to prove my argument. I do it with Harry and Meghan press stories. Yeah. I mean, it's a good way to go about it. You have to kind of look at everything. So, yeah. So, opinion says, the children aren't surrogate. In my opinion, Archie is Harry's to someone other than Meghan, who lives in the UK, and Lee is a failed adoption, a designer baby with blue eyes. No. No, that's just wrong. Sorry, that's just wrong. That's just wrong. And they are children. They are living. Yeah. Elle says, love your take on things. Thanks, Brittany. You are welcome. You are welcome. Jenna DC says, South Park figured it all out. Meghan is an empty vessel. Harry only cares about polo, even fundraising. Yeah. I thought it was actually, oh gosh, who was it? It was one, I can't remember if it was Vanity Fair or what, but literally that, like the circling in the head was just of polo. Somebody mentioned that they think all Harry thinks about is polo 24/7. They have no clue about his inner life, which I thought was hysterical. EMP 2022 says, yes, Brittany, leaders surround them with yes men and women. Then when someone doesn't agree, they freak out and take it personally. My old boss was so Michael Scott, and his right hand was Dwight. Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny. Fever Jean, thank you so much for the super chat. And yes, you're right. History doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. That's 100% correct, because we don't get the exact same scenarios, but generally the base human nature doesn't change. We get new technology, borders change, big things happen, but the essential essences of human nature never change. So I would call it like sin nature, or sin nature doesn't change. Ergo, we always make the same mistakes because we're always sinning the same ways in just different ways. So yes, Hudson is Saint and Co. Thank you so much for the super chat. Meghan's podcast should have just been about interviewing people who married into fame, celebrity, and adjusting. It would have been interesting and authentic. I like that idea. That would have been super interesting. That would have been really interesting. Actually really do like that. It's like, how do you adjust? Because I mean, there's been a few people like that. Generally, Hollywood people marry other Hollywood people, but there's been a few times where somebody who's just totally unrelated, like is like totally a normal person, marries a celebrity. I mean, there's been plenty of romance books and movies about that. So yeah. So Danielle says, and we've talked about this before, in recent articles explained that Dr. S refused, according to her, was to defend Meghan after the fiasco, ducking under the trophy. Again, I don't think Meghan cares two craps about that to care about what Dr. Sophie's thoughts are, or even what the public's thoughts are. So Meghan just like, yeah. Creative Chaosify says, let's be honest. The royal staff did all the work and Harry just went out and got the applause. Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that. Was he passionate about his projects? Yes. Did he do all he should have done? No. So yeah, I agree with that. So Wellcat Woman says, can someone post the Financial Times story? I can't get to it. I have it, but it's you can't actually read it because it was you have to pay to read it. Ah, another thing I have to pay for. She's really going for the jugular here. Prince Harry tried to force a failure of charity he founded, Chera claims. Yeah, I just don't think it's even going to play for her very well at the end of the day. Through the Looking Glass channel with Alice, it's Brittany. I loved informed debates and I'm listening to everything you say. I'm not convinced yet, but information comes from different sources. It does. It does. So So Gretchen the first says, I had a great history teacher in high school. His advice has stayed with me. One, think for yourself, 100%. Two, be willing to change your mind, 100%. Three, for the most part, anyone saying it's true because I said so may be suspect. Exactly. I go back to if you watched House way back in the day, House MD, and he would go, everybody lies. Now, does everybody lie all the time? No. But do people lie? Yes. Anybody can lie. And I think there's this idea that if people have the right credentials, because I'm seeing a lot of talk about credentials, that they have the right credentials, they won't lie or mislead you. Never ever believe that. 100% people with credentials can lie to you. 100%. 100%. Or not tell you the whole story, or only tell you part of the story, or only tell you the story that part of the story that benefits them. People at all levels do all things. It's not just subjected to one person or one class of people, you could say. Everybody does it. Even people with the best of, I don't know if best of intentions is right, but best, even with all the right pieces, everything you would think would make them the best, still not. V Queen says, "Oh, it's okay. I will still stand firm with my view of it. Thank you, though. You are so welcome." So Water says, "Do you think one more reason Meghan is doing her media because Princess Catherine is more in the news this year?" No, I think she just has content diarrhea. She just can't shut it off. C-Boss says Brittany is not biased. She makes me irritated at times because I don't agree, but she is usually right. Irritating. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to irritate. I don't mean to irritate. Creative Chaosify says past actions are a good predicator of future actions. That is true. Looking at Harry's past, alcohol, drugs, strippers, racism, do you really think he's innocent? Not saying he's innocent, just saying he's not as guilty as what some people want to believe he is. I think this is a multi-person issue. I think people want to say Harry's to blame for everything. But what about the co-founder? What about him? What about the trustees? What did they do? What about the chair? There are multiple people here. This is not just a singular Harry issue. You also have to think of distance. Again, Harry's in California. This charity is in Southern Africa. Massive time difference, which means there's limited time for Harry to have much of an impact on the day-to-day operations or anything going on really with the charity. Can he can he can he offer? Yes. Can he do certain things? Yes. But yeah. Aw, Sleepy Fox, thank you so much. I enjoy watching some other channels. They can be entertaining, but you have a way of entertaining and also credible. I think your education and longevity and personal experience are serving you well. Why, thank you. Yes, I think personal experience that comes in real handy in certain situations. Just having traveled a lot, worked at different jobs. I think, working some in this sector actually do help because it's like I wouldn't have known about USAID except I learned about USAID because I know we had USAID grants. I know we had a whole team. It was the grants team, like the whole team was just focused on those type of grants. So I think it kind of helps understand here. And I think there's some longevity in working in different spheres. You just learn different things. Stephanie says you're missing the point. Meghan cares about what is said online. She could very well have wanted Dr. Sophie to publicly say she wasn't fussed about being pushed around like that on stage to counter it. But Meghan has encountered everything online. Yes, does she hate certain things? Yeah. But who, again, does Meghan value? What perspectives does Meghan value? She doesn't value Dr. Sophie's perspective. I'm sorry, but I doubt she does. I doubt she cares. And you have to admit that her saying exactly that elicited a particular reaction. So you got to wonder, is she saying that because it's true or because she knows that certain people will believe her just because they hate Meghan? Again, just pointing that out because you got to sometimes people are doing things for their own benefit. So you got to have to guard yourself by thinking, okay, what can this person get out of this? Again, go back to my historiography class. How do you analyze bias? Well, knowing that, and like a feminist historian is probably unlikely, not saying they can't, but unlikely, especially because of how academics has gone recently, unlikely to portray a man in a positive way because she wants to uplift women. So she may denigrate men. So this man actually might have been more of an influence, but she's going to go with a woman because to her, that fits her narrative. This happens a lot in academia. I remember doing a research on something and it's a politically charged issue. And I remember looking, it was a scientific article. I remember looking at the writers and every single one of them had a stake in that industry. They made money from it. They were doctors in it. And so I didn't trust the outcome of that research in part because every single one of them had a financial benefit to it. Now, you can't totally eliminate financial benefits from things. I totally get that. But they could have, in an effort for transparency and to get to the heart of the issue, actually had people with multiple different perspectives on this team. They decided not to. That tells me they didn't really want to know the answer. Believe it or not, guys, this happens even in medical studies. This 100% does happen. That people are just, now I can't even remember how I got to this point. But anyways, but people 100% have a bias on things. Now, again, not saying everything, but I'm looking at this and I'm seeing something where people are making suppositions, let's say about USAID, that has really nothing, that is not really in the purview of actually how it functioned. And then you actually have, as well, on the flip side, you have people, saying he stole money. It's like you have no evidence he stole money from anything. So was that good or bad? No. So anyways, Dad says, how did Harry then go to Singapore for a charity match for Sentebale and they had to pay for his accommodation and flights for him over there? That's not good for a charity and it's so wrong. Charities do it all the time. They pay for they pay for their heads to go places. They might even pay for a private jet. 100% happens all the time. It's not a surprise. If you're thinking that just because it's the charity, they're not sometimes, let's say, covering things or overdoing things or not sometimes, you could say and argue living the high life. That's just not actually the case. That's not reality of the situation. So I feel like I'm bursting people's bubbles here. But yeah, no, 100%. 100%. That happens all the time. Even in charities, happens all the time. All right, Fan says, thank you, Brittany. I much appreciate your balanced and careful reporting. You are welcome. Susan Thompson says, I'm going to jump in here. Brittany is right. Charities and nonprofits are run like businesses because bottom line, they are. We are. Yeah, the objective is different, but they are businesses. So, Karen says, you must have been working so much lately. Remember to take care of yourself also. Why, thank you. I actually went and hung out with some friends last night and we played board games, which I loved. It was so fun. We actually played one called Chronology where you had to remember different, like, you had to guess, you get a card and they say the event and like, well, when was something founded? Like my winning card was, when was Babylon founded? I was like, over here at the very beginning. So Leela says, do you think WME pushed Gwyneth to film the IG video with Meghan? Meghan is a pariah in Hollywood, so I'm surprised Gwyneth would take the risk of her brand by associating with her. I don't think so. Gwyneth was just like, hey, you were neighbors. Let's just get this out of the way. I'm tired of people talking about it. Let's just make it seem like we're friendly and people can get over it. I think that's 100% what happened. So Leslie said, please listen to all the Vintage Reads show with Australian Shauna. Absolutely brilliant about Meghan's bump. So I just have a policy of not really watching other commentators just because I don't want it to influence my perspective. I like reading the major newspapers and sort of getting and interpreting from there. But I'm sorry, guys. I just don't. I've seen a lot of the evidence for the alleged moon bump. I have never been convinced. I was convinced a bit in the beginning just because she was being so weird about the bump. I was actually there during the beginning, but then I realized that what was I realizing? That Meghan was gained a lot of weight and really struggled to lose it. And I was like, Meghan is too narcissistic to gain a bunch of weight and really struggle to lose it. She would want to look like Catherine and snap back immediately after birth, and that never happened. So Cindy says, I look forward to my Battery Morning podcast. Great job, Brittany. Love to start off my morning with you. Why, thank you. Why, thank you. Diane says, thanks, Brittany, so very much. You are welcome. You are welcome. Princess Goose says, if Sentebale became part of Archwell, would it now become a foundation and Harry can get the money? That's the reason why. I like really, we don't really have any. Okay, so Archwell has to file an I-990s, which is an examination of the charity, and they have to actually put on the books how much they are paying for their staff members. Harry and Meghan, as far as we can tell, have always received nothing. Now, do they use it as a pet project to give money to particular charities? Yes. Why? It's a good tax write-off. It's a tax write-off system. Do I think they're sitting there taking $10,000 out of the accounts as they need to? No, because you would get in major trouble for that. That's you have to have an actual business expense. Could it be a stupid business expense? Yes, but do they need a real business expense to justify taking just plain old money out? That is just not how it works. Gorilla BFF says, yay, glad to hear Brittany enjoyed some time. She reminds me of myself and works very hard. So nice to have time with friends. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I actually bought more board games too. If you ever had Ticket to Ride, is like one of my favorite board games. And so like they had like the Nordic one and I wanted it and it was away on Amazon and I bought it. So glad because I looked on Amazon today and it still wasn't available. So Marcel says, yes, Brittany, don't ever change your style and format to suit the masses. Yes, I definitely don't believe that. We'll probably go ahead and end on that one. It's so good. I mean, I think for anyone, I don't want to be too influenced by others. I just want to read the reports, think for myself, and then agree. And that's why you guys get a different perspective on this one. Because if I was just following everybody else, you want to get a different perspective. And then I would become boring, to be quite honest, because I'm just repeating what everyone else is saying. So, got to stick to my perspective here. Not everyone will agree, but that is totally okay, guys. Just want to see if I missed any super chats here, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in for this bit longer version, but so many questions to answer. And again, I feel like so much misinformation going on right now about Sentebale and USAID and so many things. So, hope some of that was helpful, at least in sort of the business side of things. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall talk to you again very, very soon. And Miss Pippet,